Chapter 1298. How dare you hit me? Song Hama looked at Gohan in disbelief. He did not think that an ordinary human would dare to hit him. Without a word, he raised his fist and was about to fight back. How could Song Hama be a match for Gohan? Before his fist could land on Gohan, his stomach took a few hooks from Gohan. It was so painful that Song Hama's nose became crooked. Of course, if Gohan had not shown mercy, Song Hama's stomach would have been smashed by Gohan. How dare you all? Are you trying to rebel? Brothers, let's attack together. Seeing their captain being beaten, the surrounding soldiers could not take it anymore. They pulled out their sword maidens and prepared to attack Gohan. No. You are not allowed to use your immortal swords. Unexpectedly, Song Hama actually stopped these guards. He gritted his teeth and said, "Brothers, if we have to use celestial swords to deal with an ordinary person, then we'll be too useless. Let's teach him a lesson with our fists." Song Hama's words surprised Gohan. Gohan did not expect Song Hama to be so magnanimous. "Shihua, I'll teach you. Show me what master taught you, but you are not allowed to use your sword maidens." Gohan could not be bothered to fight with these small fries, so he handed the task of dealing with them to Lu Shihua. "Yes, master." Lu Shihua accepted Gohan's order with a smile on his face. Then, he began to fight with the soldiers. Although Lu Shihua had not learned any fist techniques, he had been immersed in the way of the sword for a long time. It was not difficult for him to apply the principles of the sword to fist technique. Therefore, in a few minutes, all the soldiers were defeated by Lu Shihua's fists. "This is bad, Gohan. There seems to be a large number of sword-bearers rushing over from the city." Liu Nianling, who was watching from the side, suddenly pointed to the other side of the road and said. At the same time, Gohan could clearly see that there were no less than 50 sword-bearers rushing over. Once these sword-bearers joined the battle and used the sword mistress, Gohan would have a hard time dealing with them. These sword-bearers were the souls of real sword-bearers in the real world. If both sides were to fight for real, who knew if Gohan would be able to kill these sword-bearers' souls in battle? Would they still be able to revive and return to the real world? "We can't fight with these sword-bearers. Open the void door directly. We must leave immediately." Gohan immediately said to Liu Nianling. Liu Nianling nodded and immediately opened the void door. "Shihua, hurry up and go in." Gohan urged Lu Shihua into the void door. Then, he grabbed Song Hama, who was rubbing his stomach on the ground, and the four of them disappeared into the void door together. These humans actually have the ability to open the void. With the disappearance of the void door, the team of sword-bearers also arrived at the scene late. After questioning the team members who had fallen on the ground, they finally understood what had happened here. "Captain, isn't opening the void something that only the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals in the Heavenly Court can do? Why are there only a few ordinary people?" After listening to the whole story, one of the team members said in confusion. "Shut up." The captain scolded his team member. "Don't you know that the big shots in the Heavenly Court occasionally like to go down to the mortal world to travel? We might have met a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal in the Heavenly Court. Let me tell you, today's incident never happened. None of you are allowed to say a word, or else if you make that Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal unhappy, all of you will be destroyed." "But Captain Chen, our Captain Song Hama was captured by a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Will he be in danger?" one of Song Hama's team members asked worriedly. "That's hard to say." The captain smiled. "Maybe our Captain Toad caught the eye of that Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal and wants to take him as a disciple. That's his luck. But if he doesn't catch the eye and becomes a target, that's also his luck. Anyway, I will report what happened today to the Immortal Monarch. You are not allowed to say a word to your subordinate. Otherwise, you will have to bear the consequences." After saying this, the whole incident was suppressed just like that. In order to exert his full strength, Xian used his authority to copy Gohan, Liu Nianling, and Lu Shihua's real strength into the game. Now, in the game, Liuyan Ling was already a sword immortal level swordbearer. Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Are you guys Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal? After being released from the Gate of Void, Song Hama no longer cared about the pain in his abdomen. He hugged Liuyan Ling's thigh and asked excitedly, "What Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal? I don't know. Let go of me." Liuyan Ling's eyes were red from Song Hama's hug. She wanted to kick Song Hama away. Gohan immediately stopped her. "Are you kidding me? If Liuyan Ling kicked Song Hama now, Song Hama would lose half his life. He's Song Hama, my childhood friend. You better take it easy," Gohan said with a smile. "He is the childhood friend you want to save this time?" Liuyan Ling was stunned. She didn't dare to kick him with all her strength. She could only give him a light kick. As a result, the light kick sent Song Hama flying more than 10 meters away. He fell heavily on the ground and screamed. "Toad, you really don't recognize me?" Gohan walked to Song Hama's side. He took out a bottle of blood medicine from his dimensional pocket and fed it to Song Hama's mouth. "What's going on? Why don't I feel pain immediately?" After Gohan's bottle of blood medicine entered his stomach, Song Hama immediately felt the pain in his body disappear. It was as if his whole body had returned to its best state. "I understand now. This is an elixir. Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. This must be the legendary elixir, right?" Song Hama said excitedly. "Just think of it as an elixir," Gohan said helplessly. "How was this an elixir?" It was just the most common bottle of blood medicine used in the game for healing. However, from Song Hama's reaction, the blood medicine could still be used in this dungeon world. In addition, the previous Void Gate could also be opened smoothly. In this case, the basic rules of this dungeon world had not changed. All the props and sword bearers' abilities in the game could still be used in this dungeon world. This was a rare piece of good news. This meant that this dungeon world had only changed for some special reason, but the whole world should still be under the control of the main program. As long as the rules of the game had not changed, Gohan was confident that he could clear this dungeon world. For a long time, Gohan tried to restore Song Hama's memory. However, Gohan used all the methods he could think of to restore Song Hama's memory, but Song Hama still could not recall his real identity and memory. He still thought that he was a heavenly soldier captain of the Fire Thunder Palace under the immortal realm and a true immortal. In the end, Gohan had no choice but to temporarily give up on restoring Song Hama's memory. Instead, he followed Song Hama's words and admitted that he and Lu Shihua were celestial immortals, while Liuyan Ling was a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal who played games. However, Gohan also learned a lot of information from Song Hama that the mortal Ouyang did not know. For example, the immortals in the immortal realm were divided into 6 levels. Immortal Emperor, Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, Celestial Immortal, True Immortal, Itinerant Immortal, and Half Immortal. One did not need to think to know that these 6 levels must correspond to the 6 levels of ancient swords, treasure swords, famous swords, spiritual swords, immortal swords, and emperor swords. Song Hama also said that the heavenly court had a total of 8 immortal emperors and 3 sect masters, as well as dozens of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals. There were also countless Heaven Immortals and True Immortals. They were so powerful that they were unparalleled. Song Hama's words made Gohan frown deeply. If what Song Hama said was true, and there were really 8 immortal emperors in the immortal world that were equivalent to Emperor Sword-level swordbearers, then Gohan would not be able to complete his mission. This was simply sending him to his death. Forget it. Let's not think about this for now. It's more important to complete the mission step by step. Gohan was never a person who was obsessed with the strength of his opponents. He threw the terrifying opponents aside and turned to Song Hama. Song Hama, our golden immortal fleeting time sees your extraordinary talent and wants to take you in as his disciple. I wonder if you're willing to. Wait, when did I say? Hearing Gohan's words, Liu Ling, who was not mentally prepared, immediately became anxious. She was about to refute him, but Gohan glared at her and she could only swallow her words. I'm willing. I'm willing. I couldn't ask for more. I couldn't ask for more. When Song Hama heard that a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal wanted to take her as a disciple, she was so happy that she almost went crazy. She immediately knelt in front of Liu Ling and called Liu Ling master, while saying that she was willing. Under the pressure of Gohan's gaze, Liu Ling could only reluctantly accept Song Hama as her disciple. All right? Since you are so sincere, I will reluctantly accept you as my disciple. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. Master, please bestow me with a Dharma name, Song Hama said excitedly as she kowtowed. Dharma name? What is that? Liu Ling's eyes turned as she recalled a story that she had read in a novel before the apocalypse. She said, Ahem, then I will bestow you with the Dharma name Wu Ning. I hope that you can comprehend the hidden potential in your body and become a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal as soon as possible. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. Hearing this, Song Hama was so happy that she was about to fly into the sky. She kept repeating, I have a Dharma name. I have a Dharma name. My Dharma name is Wu Ning. Ahem. Wu Ning. Do you know where the peach tree of immortality can be found in this world other than the peach tree garden? Gohan coughed and asked Song Hama. Chapter 1299. Peach Tree of Immortality? Hearing Gohan's question, Song Hama was stunned. Isn't that the immortal wood in the Queen Mother's peach tree garden? Master, if you want to find peach trees of immortality, you have to go to the Queen Mother's peach tree garden. How would I know where to find peach trees of immortality? Ahem. Gohan lied. Your master wants to use peach trees of immortality to make a Dharma treasure. Of course, we can't go to the Queen Mother's peach tree garden to cut down the peach trees that are still alive. We just want to find a dead peach tree. A dead peach tree of immortality. Song Hama rolled his eyes and said hesitantly, I don't know where to find a dead peach tree of immortality, but I heard a legend. 800 years ago, when the great sage, Heaven's Equal, wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace, he stole more than 10 peach trees from the peach tree garden and planted them on Mount Huagua. Later, I heard that when he was trying to catch the demon monkey, all the peach trees of immortality were destroyed in the battle. 800 years have passed. Maybe we can find those dead peach trees on Mount Huagua. That's right. Gohan nodded. What's right? Gohan, don't tell me you even misunderstood the mission hint. Liu Ling grabbed Gohan's arm and pulled him aside. She said in a low voice, Didn't your mission hint clearly say that you need to find a 5,000-year-old peach tree of immortality in the peach tree garden? If you go to Mount Huagua, won't you be going in the wrong direction? If I didn't see this guide, I would probably go to the peach tree garden directly. Gohan said. But this guide says that you only need to hand over the peach tree of immortality. The guide also states that if you choose to obtain the peach tree of immortality in other ways, you will get a side quest in the instance dungeon. At the same time, you will get a side quest reward. As for this storyline reward, it will be of great help in completing future dungeons. The strategy guide also mentioned that the location of the immortality peach trees changes randomly. You can ask the captain of the guards at the city gates about the immortality peach trees. That's why I brought you guys to trouble the guards at the city gates. I didn't expect to run into Song Hama, Gohan said with a wry smile. No wonder. I knew it. You could have just left through the void gate, so why bother with the guards? Liu Ling showed an expression of understanding, but her expression immediately turned serious. She asked Gohan in a serious tone, Gohan, do you think the things in this guide are trustworthy? Could this be a trap? Are we really going to act according to the description on this guide? Liu Ling asked a very important question, which was to question the correctness of the strategy guide. Although there were speculations that the strategy guide was left behind by one of the three people who traveled back in time, such speculations were based on the premise that the strategy guide was absolutely correct and did not contain any trap. On the other hand, if Gohan's enemy traveled back in time and deliberately wrote a strategy guide that was full of traps and left it in the Yin-Yang Gate to harm Gohan, wouldn't Gohan be in big trouble if he really acted according to the strategy guide? Therefore, the question that Liu Ling raised was very constructive. If it was really as Liu Ling guessed, Gohan would be in great danger if he acted according to the strategy guide. No. This strategy guide is very safe. There won't be any accidents. Faced with Liu Ling's doubt, Gohan answered with certainty. Why? Why are you so sure? Liu Ling was even more confused. We can assume that this strategy guide was written by my friend, my enemy, and someone who has nothing to do with me. Gohan smiled. If this is written by my friend, then he will naturally not harm me. This strategy guide is absolutely safe. If this strategy guide was written by someone who has nothing to do with me, then there is no reason for him to harm me. If this strategy guide was written by my enemy, then there is a problem. I must have successfully passed this dungeon and completed the quest to save humanity. They want to use a fake strategy guide to make me fail. Then this becomes a paradox. Since I have already succeeded in the past, how can I fail? Since history is history, then everything will never change. It will not change the history of the entire world just because someone traveled to the past. It's just like how Gu Xuanwu knew all the history and traveled to the past. However, she did not change anything in the end. Instead, she contributed to the history that we see and the Lun Yen family. Do you understand what I'm saying? Gohan asked helplessly when he saw the confused Liu Ling. Forget it. Liu Ling's expression froze. She did not even understand what Gohan was saying, let alone refute Gohan. However, it was a fact that Gohan's intelligence was higher than hers. Since Gohan said that there was nothing wrong with the strategy guide, then there really was nothing wrong with it. There was really nothing for her to worry about. What a gullible girl. Gohan looked at Liu Ling's back and his expression instantly became serious. He muttered to himself, "No, there is a loophole in the logic just now. If I had already failed in the dungeon and died in the history, then this strategy guide would be my death. Where is Mount Huagua? Which direction should we go?" Liu Ling asked her cheap disciple after confirming that they were going to Mount Huagua. "Master, are you planning to go to Mount Huagua?" Hearing Liu Ling's question, Song Hama's expression was very surprised. This Mount Huagua is thousands of kilometers away from Yuzhong City. I heard that there are demons and ghosts running amok along the way. If we really want to go there, it's better for us to travel through the void. If it was possible, Liu Ling of course wanted to travel through the void gate. This way, whether it was speed or safety, it would be greatly improved. However, there was a prerequisite to using the void gate, and that was to have a very clear understanding of the void coordinates of the destination. Simply put, one had to go to that place and leave their mark in the void. Only then could one travel through the void gate. Otherwise, if they lost their way in the void, it would be very easy for them to go south or north and end up in a place that was tens of thousands of kilometers away from Mount Huagua. Ahem. I want to train you. Since there are many monsters along the way, I'll leave it to you to deal with them. I'll guide you from the back so that you can grow quickly. Fleeting Time said with a serious expression. You're right. Yes, Master. Song Hama did not suspect anything. He thought that Liu Ling really wanted to take the opportunity to teach him. Alright. Get in the car. Let's go. Gohan took out a maglev flying car from his pocket and called Song Hama and the others to get in. He then asked Song Hama to point in the direction of Mount Huagua, and the maglev flying car roared towards Mount Huagua. Master, this must be your magical weapon. What kind of magical weapon is this? Why have I never seen such a magical weapon before? Sitting in the maglev flying car, Song Hama was very excited. He was very curious about everything inside the maglev flying car, and he touched it everywhere. This is a magical weapon that Master spent 3,000 years to cultivate. Don't touch it everywhere. If you damage Master's magical weapon, Master will make you suffer. Liuyan Ling was afraid that Song Hama would touch something that could not be explained with a magical weapon, so she simply threatened him. Song Hama replied and instantly became quiet. However, this was only temporary. Master, you must all be big shots in the heavenly court. You must have heard of the havoc in heaven 800 years ago. I don't know if Master can tell me how fierce the battle was? How the demons and ghosts led by the 7 great sages were defeated by the righteous masters of the heavenly court. What was the battle like at that time, Master? Along the way, Song Hama did not stay quiet for long. She began to transform into a curious baby, constantly asking questions, which made Liuyan Ling very uncomfortable. She, Liuyan Ling, did not know what the background story of this dungeon world was, let alone about the 7 great sages wreaking havoc in heaven. Therefore, Liuyan Ling maintained a cold attitude throughout the whole process, and did not answer any of Song Hama's questions. However, this was also very in line with the identity of an almighty immortal, so Song Hama did not have any doubts about the identity of Liuyan Ling. The 4 of them walked together in the direction of Mount Huagua for a while, and found that there was a Yuan Ko wandering on the road in front of them. It's a transformer. Gohan recognized the identity of this Yuan Ko at a glance. It was a transformer. Among all the Yuan Ko that could make Gohan angry the most was undoubtedly a transformer. After all, it was Optimus Prime who killed Gohan's parents and sister. For such a Yuan Ko, even if he did not provoke Gohan or attack Gohan, even if he was just a pile of game data, Gohan did not intend to let him live. Song Hama, I'll leave this transformer to you. Gohan pushed Song Hama's shoulder, and Liuyan Ling immediately said, this is a trial for you. Let Master see how good you are. Don't worry, if you encounter any danger, Master will definitely save you. What transformer? Isn't this a metal puppet? Song Hama muttered in confusion, but he did not hesitate at all. He rushed out of the car and started fighting with the unlucky transformer. Chapter 1300. The reason why Gohan asked Song Hama to deal with the transformer was not because he wanted to train him. Instead, he wanted to see how these sword-bearers, who were known as Sword Immortals, fought. According to the information Gohan and Song Hama had gathered, all the sword-bearers left in this instant's dungeon had become this world's Sword Immortals. The title of Sword Immortal was also specific to these sword-bearers. The Yuan Ko who originally belonged to the Heavenly Court would not use the title of Sword Immortal. In the end, Gohan found that the Sword Immortals were essentially the same as the Sword Bearers. However, their fighting style was completely different from the Sword Bearers. In other words, their fighting style was exactly the same as Gohan's fighting style. Song Hama did not release his sword mistress during the battle. He directly used his sword to fight the Yuan Ko. In the end, he relied on his swordsmanship to successfully kill a transformer. His fighting style was almost the same as Gohan's. More importantly, Song Hama displayed an extremely powerful level of swordsmanship in this battle. Although this level of swordsmanship could not be compared to Gohan's, it had surpassed 99% of the sword bearers and reached the standard of a sword master. Gohan was certain that Song Hama did not have this level of swordsmanship before he fell into a coma. Could it be that this instant's dungeon not only blocked Song Hama's memories, but also sent a set of extraordinary swordsmanship into Song Hama's mind? This piqued Gohan's curiosity. If that was really the case, and swordsmanship could be imbued into the soul through a certain method, wouldn't it mean that many sword masters could be created in the future? This would undoubtedly greatly increase the sword bearer's fighting strength. Master, how am I? Is there anything you can teach me, master? Song Hama asked Fleeting Time Lin excitedly after he returned from killing the Transformer. I see. I see. With Liuyan Ling's swordsmanship level, there was no problem in giving pointers to Song Hama. Liuyan Ling casually pointed out some problems in Song Hama's swordsmanship, which made Song Hama extremely happy. Song Hama, what's the standard of your sword techniques compared to other sword immortals? Gohan could not help but ask after Liuyan Ling finished giving him pointers. My swordsmanship is probably above average. Actually, I'm not too sure either. Song Hama replied, among the people I know, my swordsmanship is the best. However, I heard that there is a sword immortal at the level of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. His swordsmanship has reached the acme of perfection and is very powerful. A perfected golden immortal sword immortal? It should be the sword immortal level sword bearer who is trapped in the game. After listening to Song Hama's words, Gohan muttered to himself. Most of the sword bearers trapped in this instance were low-level sword bearers, but there was a sword immortal level sword bearer who belonged to the city of Russia. Now it seemed that the perfected golden immortal that Song Hama mentioned was referring to the sword immortal level sword bearer from the city of Russia. Since Song Hama said that his swordsmanship was the best among all the sword immortals he knew, it meant that among all the sword immortals, Gohan's swordsmanship could also be ranked among the best. It seemed that the swordsmanship instilled in this instance still had some kind of limitation. It could not be instilled to a very high level of swordsmanship. Otherwise, Gohan's swordsmanship over the years would have been in vain. Along the way, Gohan and the others met a lot of Yuan-ko. Except for the 2 meteor stage Yuan-ko that were personally dealt with by Liuyan Ling, the rest of the Yuan-ko were dealt with by Song Hama. Every time Song Hama ended a battle, Liuyan Ling and Gohan would give Song Hama some pointers on his swordsmanship, so along the way, Song Hama's own swordsmanship level began to improve rapidly. If Song Hama can bring all of his swordsmanship back to reality, then this dangerous trip was a blessing in disguise. Seeing Song Hama's growth, Gohan naturally felt happy for Song Hama from the bottom of his heart. After this somewhat long journey, Gohan and the others finally arrived at the mountain of flowers and fruits that Song Hama had mentioned. According to the location on the mini-map, the mountain of flowers and fruits was actually located in the northeast region, which was also within the range of Shanhai Pass. Speaking of which, we ran all the way from Yuzhong City to the mountain of flowers and fruits in the northeast. Does this count as a pilgrimage to the east? Liuyan Ling, who got out of the car, said with some excitement, "Oh yes, there are 4 of us. I am the master, and Wu Ning is my disciple. This is really interesting." At this point, an interesting idea suddenly came to Liuyan Ling's mind. She immediately said to Gohan, "Should the 3 of us take a Dharma name so that we can hide ourselves?" "Sure." Gohan nodded. This was indeed a good thing. "Well, Gohan, your Dharma name will be Wukong, and Shihua, your Dharma name will be Wu Jing. That will make it all," Liuyan Ling said seriously. Whatever. Gohan did not mind. It was just a Dharma name in a dungeon. It did not matter what name it was not a big deal. Very quickly, the real Mount Huagua was revealed in front of everyone. At that time, what surprised Gohan and the others was that Mount Huagua was already in a complete mess. There was not a single thing related to Mount Huagua that could be seen. There were only patches of dry and cracked ground and a number of burnt branches. How did this place become like this? Is this really the mountain of flowers and fruits where the great sage, Heaven's Equal, was born? Looking at the scene in front of her, Liuyan Ling felt inexplicably sad. What's so strange about that? Back then, the 7 great sages failed in their rebellion, and the 7 demon sages were sealed in 7 different places. As the nest of the great sage, Heaven's Equal, the heavenly court naturally had to completely destroy Mountain of Flowers and Fruits. If you ask me, I think we should just flatten the entire Mountain of Flowers and Fruits, Song Hama said. If we really flatten it, where are we going to find my peach trees of immortality? Guhan knocked Song Hama's head. The few of them then began to search the entire mountain of flowers and fruit. Except for the fact that the heavenly court had wiped out everything on the mountain of flowers and fruits, which hadn't recovered even after 800 years, this place was still dead silent. There was no sign of life, let alone the legendary peach tree that could prolong one's life. I'm sorry, Master. It seems that the peach trees of immortality have really been destroyed. We can't find them anymore. Let's go back, Song Hama suggested in a tired voice. Guhan, what do you think? Liuyan Ling turned to Guhan and asked. Even if the strategy is fake, they wouldn't lie about the first mission. I think the peach trees of immortality are most likely still on Mountain of Flowers and Fruit. Song Hama, is there any hidden place on Mountain of Flowers and Fruits that ordinary people don't know about? Guhan asked. Lord Guhan, I'm just a genuine immortal. If there's something that's not known to others, it's not something that I can know. Only a golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven-like master knows. Song Hama said helplessly. Wait. Speaking of hidden places, there really is such a place on Mountain of Flowers and Fruits. Liuyan Ling's eyes lit up. Without another word, she immediately led Guhan and the others to the mountainside of Mountain of Flowers and Fruit. What a huge waterfall! When they finally stopped, they found that one side of Mountain of Flowers and Fruits was actually a huge waterfall. A huge stream of water poured down from the top of the mountain, forming a huge waterfall. Legend has it that there is a water curtain cave behind this waterfall. It is the most hidden place on Mountain of Flowers and Fruit. Maybe the peach trees of immortality are hidden in the water curtain cave. Liuyan Ling said. Okay. Let's go. Guhan did not say anything else. He took the lead and flew to the center of the waterfall. After passing through the turbulent water, he found an extremely hidden entrance behind the waterfall. Soon, Lu Shihua, Liuyan Ling, and Song Hama flew in one after another. This is really the water curtain cave. The group walked along the cave for a while, and sure enough, they found a stone tablet with the words Water Curtain Cave written on it. What surprised Guhan was that other than the stone tablet with the words Water Curtain Cave on it, there was actually a layer of dimensional barrier system outside. Wasn't this the residence of the demon Yuan-ko? Why is there a dimensional wall system here? Which Yuan-ko would like to make a dimensional wall system as his home. Forget it. Let's go in first. Just as Guhan was about to enter the cave, he suddenly heard Song Hama yell behind him. Danger! Don't go in. What's wrong? Guhan turned his head and asked. Master, there is a magical barrier here. You immortals cannot enter. Only us sword immortals can enter. Song Hama said nervously. What magical barrier? Are you talking about this dimensional wall system? Guhan touched the dimensional wall in front of him, then took a step forward and walked directly in. There was no problem at all. What a spectacle! Lord Guhan, how can you go in? Didn't you say that immortals cannot enter the magical barrier unless they break it by force? Song Hama scratched his head in confusion. Let's go too, Liuyan Ling said. In the end, she and Lu Shihua also entered the dimensional wall. Song Hama had no choice but to follow them in. At the same time, he muttered, could it be that those immortals lied to me? They didn't lie to you. Of course they can't enter. Guhan sneered. The real immortals were actually Yuan-ko. Of course they could not enter the dimensional wall system. Only sword immortals like Song Hama, who was actually a human sword wielder, could enter the dimensional wall system. This demonic barrier was most likely a name made up by those immortals in order to deceive humans. This was obviously the case, and it was a matter of course. Then, a new question arose. If the dimensional wall system was slandered by the heaven as a demonic enchantment, then apart from Yuan-ko, would the so-called demonic beasts also count human beings as one of them? Chapter 1301. Is this the lair of Yuan Ko, the great sage, heaven's equal? Why does it look no different from a human's home? Stepping into the water-curtain cave, Guhan and the others saw a dilapidated scene. However, it was different from the filthy cave filled with all kinds of disgusting corpses and bones of demons and monsters. This water-curtain cave actually looked like an ordinary home. There was a spacious and comfortable double bed, ceiling lamps, a huge 100-inch TV, soft and comfortable sofa, and so on. The water-curtain cave had all the furniture that a normal home should have. It did not look like a demon's home at all. Instead, it looked no different from a normal human's house. Be careful. This is the lair of demons and monsters. There are thunder and lightning arrays everywhere. If you are not careful, you will be attacked by the thunder and lightning arrays. We must find the core of the entire array and destroy it to ensure our safety. Song Hama said nervously the moment they entered the water-curtain cave. Is the core of the array you mentioned that thing? Guhan glanced around the entire water-curtain cave and pointed to a cupboard in the corner. There were many wires connected to it. That's right. That's the core of the thunder and lightning formation. The core contains extremely powerful chaotic chi. Once we're touched by the chaotic chi, our bodies will mutate and we'll die within a few months. Song Hama looked at the core of the array and his whole body collapsed. He was like a cat with its hair standing on end. His whole body was focused to the extreme. This is not the core of any thunder and lightning array. It is clearly a nuclear fuel cell. Guhan said with a bitter smile when he saw Song Hama's nervous state. This small nuclear fuel cell was obviously the power source of the entire water-curtain cave. It was used to power the electrical equipment in the water-curtain cave. As for being attacked by the thunder and lightning array, it was most likely because they accidentally touched the exposed wires and got electrocuted. Nuclear fuel cells were a technology developed by humans before the apocalypse. Because of Yuan Ko, thermal, hydroelectric, wind and other conventional power plants could not operate normally. Only nuclear power could be developed. When Yanjing City was built, small nuclear fuel cells had already been produced. However, with the continuous advancement of black technology, small nuclear fuel cells had withdrawn from the stage of history, and everyone had switched to using miniature nuclear fuel cells. If one wanted to see such a small nuclear fuel cell in reality, they would probably have to go to a museum to find an exhibit from 800 years ago. Through these discoveries, it could be fully proved that this was not the lair of the great sage of the demon race, Yuan Ko. It was clearly a human's home. But why did the heavenly court say that a human's home was Yuan Ko and the great sage of the demon race? This made Guhan a little confused. Guhan, come and have a look, there seems to be a mobile phone here, said Fleeting Time excitedly. Guhan walked up to the bed, and found an antique phone hidden under the pillow beside the bed. With the invention of the personal terminal more than 700 years ago, mobile phones had been completely eliminated from human society. If one wanted to see a mobile phone, they would have to search for it in the ruins outside or in the museum. This is definitely not a mobile phone from before the apocalypse. It's a banana brand mobile phone produced by humans after the apocalypse, said Guhan decisively as he flipped the phone to the back of the phone. There was a banana-shaped icon on the back of the phone. Yes, I've heard of it before. The banana brand mobile phone was created after the apocalypse. There was no such brand before the apocalypse, said Liunyun Ling with a nod. Look at the interface of this mobile phone. It's an optoelectronic interface. It seems that this mobile phone was produced during the era when mobile phones and personal terminals were replaced. The earliest mobile phone was produced after 180 years after the apocalypse, said Guhan thoughtfully as he stared at the optoelectronic interface of the mobile phone. All the evidence pointed to one thing. The water curtain cave was built 800 years ago, and the humans who lived in the water curtain cave were also humans who lived 800 years ago. At the very least, the world of the dungeon was in line with human history 800 years ago. Wait a minute, Gohan. If the interface of this mobile phone is an optoelectronic interface, then can our personal terminals. Before Liu Ling could finish her sentence, Gohan understood what she was trying to say. The optoelectronic interface was the most suitable interface for personal devices. Even after 800 years, the interface of the personal terminal was still an optoelectronic interface. If the mobile phone was also an optoelectronic interface, then with the excellent analytical ability of the personal terminal, he might be able to obtain some important information from the memory of the 800 years old mobile phone. Let's do it. Gohan immediately controlled his personal terminal to shoot out an optoelectronic connection line into the mobile phone and began to read the information in the mobile phone's memory. Unexpectedly, the interior of the mobile phone was quite well preserved. The personal terminal did not waste any effort to successfully read a large amount of information. Although most of the information was useless and discarded, in the end, Gohan unexpectedly found an electronic diary among the information. Although the owner of the mobile phone did not write a diary every day, he would more or less write 1 or 2 entries every week. Through reading these diary entries, the background of the dungeon world gradually filled up in front of Gohan. Just as Gohan had guessed, this dungeon world was a normal world from the beginning of the apocalypse to about 180 years ago. The abnormal situation began with the appearance of a large-scale dimensional rift. Almost all of the heavenly courts Yuan-Ko entered the human world through that dimensional rift. Then, the heavenly court had 5 desolate grade Yuan-Ko and dozens of eternal grade Yuan-Ko overnight. Therefore, the heavenly court began to forcefully integrate the other Yuan-Ko forces and launched an attack on the humans' Swallow capital city. In the end, the Swallow capital city's dimensional barrier system was destroyed, and the city was breached. Most of the humans became heavenly court's captive. Only a small number of sword-bearers escaped and began a life of hiding and living an ignoble existence for 30 years. After defeating the humans, the satisfied heavenly court did not focus on exterminating the remaining human forces. Instead, it set up a trap to sneak attack the other Yuan-Ko forces. In the end, heavenly court won again. The main forces of the other Yuan-Ko forces were also wiped out by heavenly court. This situation became a situation where heavenly court's forces were the only ones on Earth. In order to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots, heavenly court began to launch rounds of annihilation against the humans and Yuan-Ko. Under the threat of survival, the remaining humans and Yuan-Ko gradually integrated. This was a great irony. As heavenly court wiped out the remaining humans and Yuan-Ko forces, the humans and Yuan-Ko forces became weaker and weaker. In order not to fall into a situation of waiting for death, the humans and Yuan-Ko decided to unite all the Emperor's sword-bearers and desolate grade Yuan-Ko forces of both forces to launch a sneak attack on heavenly court. As long as they could kill 2 or 3 desolate grade Yuan-Ko forces, the humans and Yuan-Ko forces would be able to launch a counterattack. He was recognized by both sides. Both sides also contributed their remaining top-notch forces. Among them, there were 2 Emperor's sword-level sword-wielders from the humans, and 4 desolate-level Yuan-Ko. In total, there were 6 top-notch experts. They first created the illusion that they were active in America and lured the 3 desolate-grade Yuan-Ko forces to America. Then, they launched a sneak attack on Heavenly Court. The diary stopped at this point. This was because the diary's owner was one of the 2 remaining Emperor's sword-bearers, Heaven's equal Jiendi. The Water Curtain Cave was where Heaven's equal Jiendi lived in seclusion. After he finished writing the last diary entry, he left all his belongings in the Water Curtain Cave. He did not bring them with him to the battlefield. At this point, Gohan finally understood the background story of this instance dungeon. This instance dungeon was indeed a world that had been completely taken over by Heavenly Court. Humans had been brainwashed by Heavenly Court to become Heavenly Court's tools. Those who had resisted Heavenly Court back then had probably been slandered as monsters and Yuan Ko forces by Heavenly Court. This was indeed a instance dungeon that allowed one's imagination to run wild. As for the outcome of the battle, it was not written in the diary. However, based on what Gohan had seen and the story of Song Hama's havoc in heaven, he could guess that the sneak attack had definitely failed. The 6 humans and Yuan Ko forces had also been slandered as the 7 sages. However, the strange thing was that there had only been 6 people. How had they become the 7 sages in the end? Gohan, do you think this is the peach tree of immortality? While Gohan was reading the diary, Liuyan Ling had also made a new discovery in the water curtain cave. She found a tree in a corner of the cave that had all its branches cut off, leaving only the trunk. The moment she saw the trunk, Liuyan Ling immediately remembered their original goal, to find the peach tree of immortality that had been snatched away by Jiandi. That's right. This is the peach tree of immortality. Gohan looked at the lines on the trunk and found that there were over 1,000 of them. This was definitely an ancient tree that had lived for over 1,000 years. Aside from the peach tree of immortality, what else could there be in the water curtain cave that had lived for over 1,000 years? Keep. Gohan stroked the trunk of the peach tree of immortality and kept it into his dimensional pocket. The 3 of them searched the water curtain cave again. After confirming that there were no other valuable clues, they left with Song Hama. I'll light a fire, Song Hama immediately said when he heard that Gohan and Liuyan Ling were leaving. He took out a lighter from his pocket and was about to burn the place down. What are you doing? When Gohan saw Song Hama's action, he slapped the lighter in his hand away and asked sternly. According to the rules of the Heavenly Court, we have to burn down the residences of the demon beasts when we find them. Song Hama said helplessly. Chapter 1302. In the end, under Gohan's organization, Song Hama was unable to burn down the heavens equal Jiandi's water curtain cave. On the way to Xianying City in the hover car, Song Hama fell into a rare moment of silence. His mouth was tightly shut and he didn't say a word. His eyes kept darting around. Clearly, something was brewing in his heart. Song Hama's strange behavior didn't escape Gohan's eyes. Seeing Song Hama's reaction, Gohan vaguely knew that he could no longer deceive Song Hama with his story that was full of loopholes. Right now, Song Hama was probably very suspicious of Gohan and Liuyan Ling. If it wasn't for his fear of Liuyan Ling and Gohan's power, Song Hama might have already betrayed them. What are you thinking about? Gohan suddenly stopped the car and handed the driving task to Liuyan Ling. At the same time, he let Lu Shihua sit in the front seat while he pulled Song Hama to the back seat. He looked at Song Hama with a smile and asked, "No, I'm not thinking about anything." Song Hama got a fright and said in a panic, "Don't pretend. Let me guess. Are you thinking that the 3 of us aren't from the Heavenly Court? Are you suspecting our identities?" Gohan narrowed his eyes and asked, "No, definitely not." Song Hama waved his hands and said anxiously, "I'm Master's disciple. How could I suspect Master's identity? That's absolutely impossible. Master, you're definitely immortals from the Heavenly Court. There's no mistake. Didn't I say it already? Don't pretend with me and I won't pretend with you." Gohan laughed. "To tell you the truth, the 3 of us are indeed not from the Heavenly Court. To be more accurate, the 3 of us are the demons and ghosts that the Heavenly Court is talking about." Song Hama sweated profusely when he heard Gohan's straightforward reply. He immediately covered his ears and tried his best to shake his head. "I'm not listening. I'm not listening. I didn't hear anything. Put it down. I'm not joking with you. We are actually the same kind." Gohan grabbed Song Hama's hand, then told Song Hama everything he saw and guessed about the background of this world in the water curtain cave, and told him the truth of this world. However, under such circumstances, no matter how much Gohan said, Song Hama only treated Gohan's words as the bewitchment of demons and ghosts. She didn't believe a single word from Gohan. Seeing Song Hama's reaction, Gohan couldn't help but feel annoyed. If Song Hama wasn't his friend, then he would just throw him out of the car, regardless of whether he was dead or alive. However, the problem was that Song Hama was Gohan's childhood friend. It was impossible for Gohan to harm Song Hama. Instead, he would do everything possible to protect Song Hama's life. After thinking hard for a while, Gohan asked Liu Ling to stop the car, and the four of them got out of the car together. "What can I do to make Song Hama believe me?" "You're finally going to kill me, right?" "I won't betray you guys, so just let me go." Seeing that he was being pulled out of the car, Song Hama thought that Gohan wanted to kill him to silence him, and immediately shouted in fear. "What, you guys? It's us, we are the same kind, we are the sword bearers." Gohan knocked Song Hama's head, and then pulled out the Extinguish Immortal sword from his waist, and threw it out. The Extinguish Immortal sword blossomed in the air, and finally turned into the appearance of Extinguish Immortal. However, it was different from the Extinguish Immortal sword that was full of evil ideas. The Extinguish Immortal sword that was released now was very sluggish, without any spirituality to speak of. It was not a natural sword mistress, but rather a man-made one. This was because before entering the game, Gohan didn't let his sword mistress consciousness follow him into the dungeon. After all, this was an extremely dangerous dungeon, and Gohan didn't have absolute confidence that he could leave the dungeon alive. If his natural sword mistress was trapped in the dungeon with him, then it would be a huge loss. Therefore, the sword mistresses that Gohan used in the dungeon were all man-made sword mistresses that were automatically generated by the system. Naturally, they did not have any spirituality to speak of. On the other hand, Lu Shihua and Fleeting Time Ling were also using artificial sword maidens. Sword Demon! Sword Demon! Seeing the Extinguish Immortal sword in Gohan's hand turn into a beautiful woman, Song Hama screamed in fear. "What? You know my sword mistress?" Seeing Song Hama's reaction, Gohan narrowed his eyes and asked, "So you are the demons of the Sword Demon clan? You can turn swords into women. So you are from the Sword Demon clan." Song Hama was so terrified that he began to babble nonsense. However, it also confirmed the diary that Gohan had read in the Heaven's Equal Sword Emperor's notebook. After conquering all of the human base cities, the Heavenly Court killed all of the adult humans, leaving behind only the children who didn't have much memory. They began to brainwash them, telling them that there was a kind of demon outside called the Sword Demon Clan. They looked similar to humans and liked to tell humans that they were the same kind and must not be believed. Therefore, under the demonization of the Heavenly Court, the original humans became the Sword Demon Clan that the brainwashed humans spoke of. "Fine, even if we are the Sword Demon Clan, do you think that you are a real human?" Speaking up to this point, Gohan suddenly pulled out the sword mistress Casted Cloud Iron from Song Hama's scabbard. "To tell you the truth, you are the same as us, a member of the Sword Demon Clan." "Hee. You are lying to me, I am not a member of the Sword Demon Clan." Song Hama expressed that he did not believe a single word that Gohan said. "You used the power of the rule to seal the sword mistress?" Gohan felt the Casted Cloud Iron in his hand, and realized that the Casted Cloud Iron was enveloped by the power of the rule. It was also this power of the rule that sealed the Casted Cloud Iron's ability to transform into the form of a sword mistress, preventing Song Hama from releasing the Casted Cloud Iron in his hand. "Break for me." The power of the rule that sealed the Casted Cloud Iron could not be broken by the sword wielder's normal strength. Only the power of the rule could break the power of the rule. It just so happened that Gohan possessed the power of the rule. A light flashed in Gohan's hand. Gohan poured the power of the rule that belonged to Gohan into the Casted Cloud Iron. The entire Casted Cloud Iron emitted a dazzling light. The power of the rule that trapped the Casted Cloud Iron could not resist Gohan's power, and was broken in a short period of time. The casted cloud iron was finally unsealed and returned to its most normal state. However, Guhan could not release the casted cloud iron into the form of a sword mistress. The only one who could do so was Song Hama himself. Take it. Then think about releasing this sword mistress. Guhan stuffed the casted cloud iron into Song Hama's hand and said calmly, Okay. In order to save his life, Song Hama naturally agreed. However, in reality, Song Hama secretly decided that even if he was beaten to death, he would not think about releasing this sword mistress. Then, the casted cloud iron in Song Hama's hand flashed. The sword mistress casted cloud iron that Guhan had not seen for a long time appeared in front of everyone. How can this be? Seeing his own sword transform into the form of a huge girl, Song Hama was dumbfounded. Could it be that the truth was as Guhan said? That he was not a real human, but a demon of the Sword Demon clan? From this moment on, Song Hama began to doubt his own identity and existence for the first time in his life. Master, I finally see you. I thought you had become stupid and would never return to your normal state. You really forgot about me, the casted cloud iron. As soon as the casted cloud iron appeared, she hugged Song Hama. This 2-meter-tall woman actually burst into tears. Her tears were like a waterfall, instantly drenching Song Hama's entire body. Seeing this scene, Guhan could not help but laugh as he said to the casted cloud iron, Lady Casted Cloud Iron, I haven't seen you for more than 3 years. You are still as beautiful as ever. Brother Guhan, you are also in the game. The casted cloud iron only then discovered Guhan's existence. Then, she hugged Song Hama in her arms and chatted happily with Guhan. Through the conversation with the casted cloud iron, Guhan found out that Song Hama had missed Guhan's coronation ceremony because he was adventuring outside. When he returned, he was a little unhappy. Coincidentally, the game opened a celebration event for the Sea Emperor's coronation. Song Hama participated in the event in the game as a way to celebrate for Guhan. However, he did not expect that halfway through the game, all the players in the game would instantly fall into a deep sleep, and the sword ladies would be suppressed back to their sword forms. After that, the casted cloud iron felt a powerful force seal her sword form. Although Song Hama woke up from her deep sleep, it was as if she had become a different person. She had lost all her memories and still thought that she was some sword immortal. She did not care about the sealed casted cloud iron at all. If not for Guhan's timely appearance, perhaps the casted cloud iron would have gone crazy. At the same time, Guhan discovered that the casted cloud iron's sense of time was still normal. From the time her soul fell into a deep sleep until now, it had been a total of more than 2 days. Moreover, the casted cloud iron maintained her consciousness throughout the entire process. There were no traces of her memories being modified. This meant that although the memories of the sword wielder had been tampered with, the memories and consciousness of the sword ladies were still intact. If he could completely remove the seal on all the sword ladies, then these sword immortals would change from his enemies to his helpers. At the same time, in the faraway heavens, a desolate level Yuan Ko, who was dressed like an emperor, was sitting on the throne high above. He frowned and said in a low voice, My rule power has been broken. Who is it? Could it be that among Yuan Ko and the remaining humans, another Emperor sword-level combatant has been born? Clairvoyant, clairaudient. Both of you, quickly come and see me. The desolate level Yuan Ko did not dare to delay. He immediately sent out his decree and ordered Clairvoyant and Clairaudient to come and see him. Chapter 1303. On the dilapidated road on the outskirts of Xi'an, Shaanxi Province, a maglev flying car was moving forward at a constant speed. However, the owner of the hovercraft did not seem to know that there were many sneaky figures lurking in the ruins on both sides of the road. When the hovercraft arrived at a predetermined location, a thick earthen wall suddenly appeared out of thin air, blocking the hovercraft's path. In the next second, the hovercraft was about to crash into the earthen wall and be smashed into smithereens. In the end, the hovercraft crashed directly into the earthen wall. The entire world was instantly shrouded in gray dust, as if it had entered a heavy smog. Go! Kill these lackey sword immortals of the heavenly court! As the collision occurred, many ambushers rushed out from the ruins on the side of the road. However, the composition of these ambushers was very complicated. Some were simple magical beasts, some were strange creatures, and some were humans with all sorts of strange abilities. There were even 2 sword-bearers with sword mistresses mixed in with the group. The motley crew swarmed forward and launched a frenzied assault on their opponents in the smog. It was effortless. When the smog dissipated, the few people in the hovercraft were miserably captured by the ambushers. Guhan, Liuyan Ling, Lu Shihua, Cast Cloud Iron, and Song Hama were surrounded by a dark light. Under this dark light, Guhan and the others could not even move their fingers. The only thing that could work normally was their mouths. Kel Thuzad, is there a problem with your spell? In my opinion, why don't I kill all these puppets of the heavenly court with one sword strike? Wouldn't it be great to end all troubles once and for all? Seeing that Guhan and the others had been subdued, a handsome man dressed in crimson armor and holding a large axe said. He had a hint of violence in his eyes. No, my dear Teleus. My king has just ordered that she will be here soon. Before she arrives, these people cannot be killed. The man called Kel Thuzad, who was actually a skeleton shrouded in a magic robe, said in a gentle but unquestionable tone. Don't worry with my shadow word, bind, they will not be able to break free. Humph, you wizards always make people feel at ease. Teleus muttered. He did not want to do anything to Guhan and the others. Guhan glanced at the ambushers. There were about 30 people in total, and they were all dragon-level Yuan Ko. Only Teleus and Kel Thuzad, who spoke just now, were nether-level Yuan Ko. Hey, I think you are mistaken. We are all on the same side. We are not accomplices of the heavenly court, Guhan said, pretending to be wronged. In fact, if Guhan had not ordered everyone to surrender, these dragon-level Yuan Ko would not have been a match for Guhan and Liuyan Ling. What a joke! You dogs of the heavenly court, now that you are about to die, you still have the nerve to say that you are on the same side as us? How shameless! Teleus spat on the ground, then pointed at Song Hama's head and scolded. I know this guy. He is one of the city guard captains of Yuzhong City. His hands are stained with the blood of many of our brothers. I will be the first to kill him. Yes, Guhan, aren't you with them? Didn't I already say that I want to renounce darkness for light? Why do they want to kill us? Song Hama was also scared out of his wits and said in fear. Don't panic. This guy doesn't know what's good for him. There will always be someone who knows what's good for him. Let's wait for their king to come. Guhan said calmly. What? How dare you say that I don't know what's good for me? Trius appeared to be extremely angry. He swung his axe at Guhan's head, intending to swing it at him. Stop right there, Teleus! A mighty voice with a hint of softness came from afar. Hearing this voice, the angry Teleus instantly became as obedient as a kitten. My king! Teleus bowed respectfully when he saw a valiant swordsman clad in blue armor and wielding a long sword walking over. Artoria! Seeing this swordsman, Guhan's body trembled slightly. He finally saw the living King Arthur again, although it was still in the game. You know me? Artoria said in surprise when she heard Guhan call her name. Humph! You lowly dogs! How dare you call the great King Arthur by his name? Teleus was the first to be displeased when he heard Guhan call out Artoria's name. He raised his axe and said loudly, My king, there is nothing to say. Let me kill these dogs. Artoria! I haven't seen you for more than 3 years. You are still as beautiful as ever, Guhan said softly as he looked at Artoria's face. Did we meet 3 years ago? How come I don't remember? Artoria's brows furrowed even more. She did not like this kind of man who acted too familiar. Of course we met. It's just that we were in another world. Gohan laughed heartily and stood up from the ground. The sword energy on the surface of his body rotated, and the psionic energy of Shadow Word, bind that had trapped Gohan, was instantly destroyed. Gohan immediately regained his freedom. The moment he saw Artoria, Gohan changed his mind. He no longer wanted to pretend to be weak. He wanted to show his true strength. Impossible. My Shadow Word. Seeing Gohan break free from the bindings of Shadow Word, Kel Thuzad was shocked. His expressionless face was filled with fear and disbelief. Kel Thuzad, I told you, your magic is not reliable. You still want to see my all-conquering axe. In the next second, Telius' axe swung towards Gohan's head. Gohan smiled slightly and did not dodge. He did not even pull out the Sword Maiden. He just condensed a sword energy at his fingertips and flicked it at Telius' axe. Telius felt a huge impact, and his whole body flew out in an instant. Attack! When the other Yuan Ko saw this, they immediately condensed their own power and prepared to fight Gohan and the others again. However, they were stopped by a small, smooth hand. Stop! This is a powerhouse who has mastered the power of laws. Even a few hundred of you are not enough to deal with him. The one who spoke was King Arthur Artoria. The moment she saw Gohan make his move, she knew that she had encountered a tough opponent. So tough that King Arthur himself did not have the confidence to defeat his opponent. You guys run. I'll hold this guy back. Artoria took a deep breath and pulled out the sword in the stone from her waist. She put on her classic battle stance and prepared to fight to the death with Gohan, using herself to buy time for her subordinates to escape. I think we might have misunderstood. I've said it before. We are not enemies. We are on the same side. Gohan smiled and patted his waist. The 8 Sword Maidens, Qinpin, Shishui, Etienne, Deryu, Qidian, Juzi, Juexian, and Zhu Xian, flew out from Gohan's dimensional pocket and stood behind Gohan. However, their expressions were a little stiff. They were all man-made sword maidens. I am a sword wielder. I am not a sword saint. After Gohan said that, Liuyan Ling and Lu Shihua broke free from the Dark Word spell and released their sword maidens. In the end, 17 sword maidens appeared beside them. I think this proves our identities. An Emperor sword wielder. You are an Emperor sword wielder. When the 17 sword maidens appeared at the same time, especially the 8 sword maidens behind Gohan, Artoria did not even have the courage to raise her sword in the stone. What kind of joke was this? If she was facing an Emperor sword wielder, it would be futile no matter how much Artoria resisted. Her subordinates would not be able to leave this place alive. Although I'm not considered a true Emperor sword level sword wielder, you can treat me as the weakest Emperor sword level sword wielder. Gohan laughed. Who are you? Even if you are not the accomplices of the Heavenly Court, I have never heard of an Emperor sword wielder emerging from the remnants of the human race. Your Emperor sword maidens are all sealed in the Heavenly Court. How can you be an Emperor sword wielder? Artoria said in disbelief. Her eyes were still filled with caution. Clearly, she did not believe this Emperor sword wielder who had suddenly appeared. If I told you that I transmigrated from another parallel world, would you believe me? Gohan said faintly. Logically speaking, the best way to fool Artoria would be to say that Gohan and Fleeting Time were humans who were lucky enough to survive, and that they were lucky enough to obtain an Emperor sword mistress that had not been discovered by anyone before. That would be the best way to fool Artoria. However, Gohan knew very well that such a lie might work on a Chunibu kid, but it was impossible to deceive a knowledgeable monarch. His lack of understanding of this dungeon world would allow the other party to easily expose him. Therefore, Gohan chose a half-truth. Gohan said that he was a sword wielder from another parallel dimension. The sword wielder of that world had not completely fallen and was still fighting with the Heavenly Court and the Yuan Ko. Meanwhile, Gohan and the others had accidentally come to this world through the dimensional rift and were currently looking for a way to return to their own world. Apart from hiding that this was a game world, Gohan told almost all the truth. It was precisely because of Gohan's words that Artoria could not find any flaws other than feeling that Gohan's words were nonsense. Chapter 1304. Is this the place where you made a name for yourself in the game? Liu Ling asked curiously as she stood shoulder to shoulder with Gohan at the entrance of Xianyang Airport. Lu Shihua was also curious. The most legendary story about the identity of the military governor was the King Arthur's betrayal dungeon. It was a story that every player loved to talk about. Even after the identity of the military governor had been dormant for 3 years, there would still be players mentioning the shocking performance of the military governor from time to time. Therefore, both Liu Ling and Lu Shihua were very curious about the story of Gohan. You've been here before and you've made a name for yourself here? Artoria asked incredulously after hearing Liu Ling's words. That's impossible. We've lived here for hundreds of years. If he was stirring up trouble here, how could Troz not know? Troz, who was holding the axe, said with a displeased look. That's impossible. That's something from another dimension. 3,000 years ago, Artoria, because you betrayed the Martyr's Palace, you were trapped in this underground palace, ready to die. In the end, my friends and I rescued you and brought you back to Yanjing City. Then, you cooperated with Yanjing City to destroy the evil Martyr's Palace. Gohan laughed as he spouted nonsense. That's a matter from another dimension. Don't spout nonsense here. The Martyr's Palace is an ally of us sword-bearers. Why would we sword-bearers want to destroy it? A sword-wielder called Lu Qiao said. He was a sword-wielder born from the remnants of the humans in this world, and he was a famed sword-wielder. It was unknown whether Lu Qiao was a player's soul or an NPC that had evolved from this dungeon world. I told you. That's a matter from another dimension. In that dimension, we humans had more than 10 Emperor sword-wielder and built 10 base cities. Apart from humans, all other creatures were our enemies. Gohan said calmly. Doesn't that mean in your dimension we humans are like the heavens now? That's so enviable, it's like living in your world. Lu Qiao said with a yearning expression after hearing Gohan's words. It's okay. If I can open the dimensional door, then I'll definitely bring all the humans in this world back to live a good life. Gohan said straightforwardly. Really? Lu Qiao's mood suddenly became extremely excited. It was like living under an overpass, relying on scavenging for a living, suddenly finding out that your biological brother is a billionaire in another city, and this billionaire wants to take you back to live a good life. You would also become extremely excited. Gohan's words had pulled the hearts of the humans in this world closer to his position. Are you openly poaching us? Artoria glared at Gohan angrily. Artoria, you have to think about it in another way. If I bring all the humans in this world away, then wouldn't this world truly belong to your Yuan Ko? You should be happy. Gohan smiled. Alright, I guess if we don't defeat the heavens, we won't be able to return to our dimension. So at least for now, our goal is the same. Is that why you forced us to bring you to Master Lu Ban? Artoria asked, clearly annoyed. No. Even if I don't ask you to lead the way, I know that Lu Ban is in the underground palace under Xianyang Airport. Gohan smiled. The only difference is that if you lead me in, then we can have a friendly talk. If the 3 of us kill our way in, I'm afraid that good things will become bad things. Okay. Artoria had been aware of this for a long time, which was why she stood her ground and personally led Gohan and the others to Xianyang Airport. At the same time, she had already sent someone to Xianyang Airport to issue a warning, so that Gohan's threat to their stronghold could be minimized. This was the 3rd time Gohan had come to Xianyang Airport for a completely different purpose. At this time, Xianyang Airport was still the same as when King Arthur's betrayal began, or rather, It was calmer than before because there was not a single Yuan Ko to be seen in this Xianyang airport. It was empty, just a pile of ruins. Under Artoria's lead, Guhan and the others once again entered the familiar Terminal T1, followed the familiar path all the way forward, and finally appeared in the underground palace of Terminal T1. However, unlike the many strange tunnels and underground palaces with many rooms in King Arthur's Betrayal, the underground of Terminal T1 was actually a huge space supported by many pillars. This huge underground palace seemed empty, and not a single person could be seen. However, judging from the various discarded household garbage on the ground and some messy traces of escape, this underground palace should have been full of people not long ago. These people had just evacuated in a very short time. Obviously, it was Artoria's men who rushed to the police, and the rebels living in the underground palace temporarily retreated, lest Guhan started a massacre in the underground palace. Of course, this underground palace was not empty. In the center of the palace, Lu Ban, whom Guhan had been looking forward to for a long time, was sitting there, waiting for Guhan's arrival with a smile on his face. "Master Lu Ban, I have brought this person as you ordered," Artoria said to Lu Ban. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Lu Ban nodded, then said, "I have something to say to him alone. Your Majesty, can you leave for a while?" "Master Lu Ban, this human is very dangerous. I still can't determine his identity, and I can't determine which side he is on. Isn't it a little too dangerous to leave you here alone?" Artoria said nervously. "It's okay, I believe him. Besides, even if the two of us join forces, we are no match for him. Your Majesty, don't worry and leave." "Trust me, I can handle it," Lu Ban insisted. In the face of Lu Ban's insistence, Artoria had no choice but to give Guhan another warning look and leave with her people, leaving Guhan and the others alone with Lu Ban. Seeing Artoria leave, Lu Ban showed a long-lost smile and said to Guhan, "Military Governor, my young friend, I haven't seen you for more than 3 years. I didn't expect you to become so strong. Even your teammates are much stronger than they were back then." "You are." Hearing Lu Ban's words, Guhan's expression changed drastically. Lu Ban actually knew him, and he could even tell him about what happened 3 years ago. Could it be? It seems that Military Governor, my young friend, has already guessed it. However, I am the NPC Lu Ban who gave you Lady Juzi's keepsake in this place 3 years ago. Lu Ban revealed his identity without hesitation. He even knew that he was an NPC. Liu Ling and Lu Shihua were confused. They could not help but look at Guhan and ask, "What's going on?" "It's like this." Guhan told the story of what happened with Lu Ban in the dungeon. He then asked Lu Ban, "Why? Why did you appear in this dungeon? How did you know your identity as an NPC? If you really knew that you were an NPC, shouldn't you have been refreshed after the end of the dungeon 3 years ago?" "At that time, I was indeed refreshed." Lu Ban laughed. "The old me you see now is no longer the old me from 3 years ago. This is a brand new body. It's just that some of my memories have been preserved." "Understood." Guhan nodded in his heart. It turned out that the memory of the dungeon had been preserved in a brand new Lu Ban's body. "Actually, my memory should not have been preserved. However, when you, Military Governor, activated this dungeon, my memory was directly transferred to this body. I have been waiting for you for 3 years, Military Governor." Lu Ban sighed. It turned out that Lu Ban's memory had been preserved because Guhan had triggered an Emperor Sword quest. "You came to this dungeon world 3 years ago? Could it be that this dungeon world had already appeared 3 years ago?" Guhan heard a crucial piece of information from Lu Ban. If Lu Ban's memory had been transferred to this body 3 years ago, did that not mean that this dungeon world had already been established 3 years ago? "That's right. At that time, I thought that you, Military Governor, would immediately complete the Emperor Sword quest as soon as you received the Emperor Sword quest. I never expected that I would wait for 3 years. If not for the change in this dungeon world, I'm afraid that you, military governor, would have completely forgotten about this Emperor's Sword quest. Lu Ban, the old man, said sadly. Gohan could not help but feel a little ashamed. The truth was just like what Lu Ban had said. If not for the huge problem with the game, Gohan might have completely forgotten about this Emperor's Sword quest. Since you already know that this dungeon world has changed, you must also know that millions of human souls are trapped in this dungeon world and unable to escape. Do you know the reason for this world's change and how to release these human souls? Gohan asked the most important question. I know. Lu Ban nodded readily. Whether it is the reason for this dungeon world's change or how to save these human souls, I know the answer to all your questions. This is also what I want to tell you. Chapter 1305. I shouldn't have told you all this. You'd have to go through the 120-level mission in the Instance Dungeon to find out. However, the Instance Dungeon has become like this. To save the human souls trapped here, I'll tell you everything. Lu Ban said with a sigh. Lu Ban's words made Gohan sweat profusely. If he really had to go through the 120-level game mission, Gohan might not be able to save these unlucky people even if he had to wait until next month. This Emperor's Sword Instance Dungeon was originally a normal Emperor's Sword Instance Dungeon. It was the starting mission for the Heavenly Court Instance Dungeon series. There was nothing special about it. I just didn't expect Zhou Yu's soul to be hiding in this preset Instance Dungeon world. However, if Zhou Yu wanted to control the entire game world, he had to defeat the original owner of the game world, Miss Tomono Kakaze, Lu Ban said slowly. Zhou Yu was actually no match for Miss Tomono Kakaze, so he set up a trap in this Instance Dungeon. First, he lured Miss Tomono Kakaze's consciousness into the Instance Dungeon. Then, he cut off the connection between the Instance Dungeon and the main system, causing Miss Tomono Kakaze, who had lost her foundation, to fall into a deep sleep. Then, he tried to destroy the Instance Dungeon and Miss Tomono Kakaze's consciousness. However, before Miss Tomono Kakaze fell into a deep sleep, she told me everything with her mind. She asked me to pass the message to Master Kanzu before the Instance Dungeon closed, and to continue waiting for you in the Instance Dungeon, Military Governor. Master Kanzu came to stop the Instance Dungeon before it was completely destroyed. He fought with Zhou Yu again. However, Zhou Yu had already stolen Miss Tomono Kakaze's power. Master Kanzu was no match for Zhou Yu. Thus, Sir Kanzu decided to sacrifice his own sword soul to become one with this Instance Dungeon. In the process, the souls of some innocent humans were sucked into this Instance Dungeon and trapped within it. That way, Zhou Yu will not be able to destroy this Instance Dungeon. It is the equivalent of protecting Miss Tomono Kakaze's soul. But this way, this Instance Dungeon has completely broken away from the system's control. It has become an Instance Dungeon that can only be entered but not left. This is the reason for this world's mutation. Lu Ban's explanation was very thorough. Without any suspense, he directly told Gohan the reason for the formation of this world. The world liked good people like him. Then why has the memory of humans been washed to this state? Gohan asked in confusion. Actually, their memories have not been altered. Their memories have been sealed in their subconscious. This is the result of the soul battle between Kanzu and Zhou Yu. Lu Ban explained. The souls of these humans who were sucked into this Instance Dungeon have merged with the NPCs of this world. The memories of those NPCs have replaced the memories of these human players, and at the same time, they have suppressed the human players' memories in their subconscious. Is there a way to release their memories? Gohan asked. There is only one way to release their memories, and that is to let Miss Tomono Kakaze regain control of the entire game world. Then, she can erase the memories of these NPCs from the root. Without the suppression of the NPCs' memories, the human's own memories will naturally be released without any danger, Lu Ban said. So, the key to all the problems lies with Tomono Kakaze. As long as Tomono Kakaze, who is trapped in this world, the entire instance dungeon and all humans will be able to return to normal. As for whether we need to clear this instance dungeon or not, are all the quests not important? Gohan guessed. Military Governor, my young friend, you are right, but you are also wrong. Indeed, saving Miss Tomono Kakaze will save everyone. However, the prerequisite to saving Miss Tomono Kakaze is to complete all the quests in this instance dungeon. Lu Ban sighed. To ensure that Miss Tomono Kakaze is suppressed, Zhou has used all the root data of this instance dungeon. Unless the entire instance dungeon disappears on its own, Miss Tomono Kakaze will not be able to wake up from the suppression of the instance dungeon. And to make this instance dungeon disappear on its own, the only way is for me to complete the quest of this instance dungeon and eliminate the reason for its existence at the root. Then, this instance dungeon will disappear on its own, right? Before Lu Ban could finish, Gohan blurted out. That's right. Mr. Military Governor, you are indeed smart. In that case, I don't need to waste my breath on this. Lu Ban nodded. After all this talk, the problem is back to the source of the problem. I still need to complete all the quests in this instance dungeon. Gohan smiled bitterly. You just said that this instance dungeon has 120 quests. If I were to complete them one by one, how long would it take for me to complete them? There's no hurry. Of course, I won't let you complete all 120 quests, Mr. Military Governor. Lu Ban smiled. I wonder if Mr. Military Governor has brought the peach tree of immortality with you. Here it is. Gohan took out the peach tree of immortality from his pocket. Ahem. There's something wrong with the peach tree of immortality that you stole from the peach garden. You'll need the peach tree of immortality from Heavens = Water Curtain Cave. Let me tell you, Heavens = home is in Mount Huagua. Before Lu Ban could finish, Gohan interrupted him. Master Lu Ban, this is the peach tree of immortality from Heavens = Water Curtain Cave. Gohan said calmly. What? I didn't even tell you. How do you know that you've found the peach tree of immortality from him? Lu Ban was obviously shocked by Gohan. He was so angry that his face turned red. I obtained a strategy guide. The strategy guide explained in detail how to complete this instance dungeon. I'm just following the instructions in the strategy guide. Gohan replied. Unbelievable. How did you get the strategy book for this quest? Lu Ban took a deep look at Gohan and decided to put this problem aside for the time being. He said, but this is good. With this peach tree of immortality, things will be much easier. Lu Ban patted the peach tree of immortality, and Gohan heard a new system notification. Instance dungeon quest completed. Successfully handed over the peach tree of immortality to Lu Ban. Quest is being refreshed. Instance Dungeon Quest 2 failed. Instance Dungeon Quest completion requirements refreshed. Instance Dungeon is being recreated, hidden quest created. Find the living soil of the 9 heavens, water of the highest life, and flames of the 9 yang to revive this withered peach tree of immortality. Did you hear the notification about the activation of the hidden quest? At the same time, look for the living soil of the 9 heavens, water of the highest life, and flames of the 9 yang? Lu Ban asked when he saw the surprised look on Gohan's face. That's right. Gohan nodded. That's right. Lu Ban breathed a sigh of relief. Now that the hidden quest has been triggered, the complicated 120 circle quest is no longer necessary. All you need to do is follow the main quest of the hidden quest, and the remaining quest will only have 10 circles. Very good. A smile finally appeared on Gohan's face. He then turned around and prepared to leave with Liuyan Ling and Lu Shihua. Where are you going? Lu Ban quickly asked when he saw that Gohan was about to leave. Time is of the essence. Of course, I'm going to find these 3 items to complete the quest. Gohan replied quickly. With the activation of the hidden quest, the conventional strategy recorded in the strategy guide could no longer be used. However, Gohan remembered that in the strategy guide, there was also a quest to find these 3 items. According to the strategy guide, Gohan could also find these 3 items. So, Gohan could not wait to set off with his team. No. You don't need to look for those 3 items. I've already prepared them for you, Lu Ban said with a smug smile. Then, under the surprised gazes of Gohan, Liu Ling, and Lu Shihua, he took out the 3 quest items from his body. This. Gohan lowered his head and grabbed the 3 quest items in his hand. Then, he saw the introduction panel of the 3 quest items. Living soil of the 9 heavens. Wondrous item. Swordsmen cannot use it. The soil used by Goddess Nuwa when she created humans. It has the magical power to transform into a human body. Supreme life water. Wondrous item. Swordsmen cannot use it. The innate water used by Goddess Nuwa when she created humans. It has the power to transform soil into a human body. True flames of the 9 heavens. Wondrous item. Swordsmen cannot use it. The item with the most yang qi in the world. At the same time, it can replenish the yang qi needed by the soul without harming it. At the same time, it can train the soul and the body, allowing the 2 to merge again. The system's item introduction panel would never be fake. In other words, the 3 items provided by Lu Ban were all genuine quest items. Even if it was Gohan, he had never thought that the quest item would appear in front of him right after he received the quest. Therefore, Gohan couldn't help but feel a little dumbfounded. His face revealed a rare expression of not knowing what to do. Are you very surprised? Are you very surprised? Seeing Gohan's expression, Lu Ban smiled even more happily. If this was a normal instance dungeon, I would definitely let you look for it yourself. This is also the fun of instance dungeons. However, the situation is urgent. The longer a human's soul stays in this dungeon, the weaker it will be. If it stays for more than a week, I'm afraid it will completely disappear. So, I won't waste your time. Before you enter this dungeon, I've already asked Artoria and the others to bring these items from their respective places to make it easier for you to complete your task. There's such a thing? Liu Ling and Lu Shihua looked at Lu Ban dumbly. This was the first time they had encountered such a way to complete a instance dungeon. Chapter 1306. System. Hidden Instance Dungeon Quest 2 completed. You have successfully found the living soil of the 9 heavens, the water of supreme life, and the true flames of the 9 yang. Quests are being refreshed. System. Hidden Instance Dungeon Quest 3 generated. Find the 12 sword maidens scattered across this world. After Gohan kept the 3 items into his dimensional pocket, a new quest prompt popped up. This time, Gohan was required to find the 12 sword maidens. This time, however, Gohan was smarter. He did not run out like before. Instead, he looked at Lu Ban and asked, "Are these 12 sword maidens with you? How smart. You managed to figure it out." Lu Ban laughed heartily as he pulled out another 12 sword maidens. Fleeting Time rolled his eyes at the sight of the sword maidens. The NPC has prepared all the quest items for you. You don't even need to go out for a stroll. Is there really such a way to complete a quest? Ha ha. This is an urgent matter. There is no need to worry about such a small matter. Lu Ban laughed, trying his best to alleviate the awkwardness. Gohan did not say anything. Since the quest items had been delivered to him, there was no reason for him to reject them. Thus, he kept the 12 sword maidens into his dimensional pocket. As expected, the system prompt popped up again. System. Hidden Instance Dungeon Quest 3 completed. Successfully find the 12 sword maidens scattered across this world. Quest is being refreshed. System. Hidden Instance Dungeon Quest 4 generated. Use the immortality peach tree to go to 6 different sealed locations and summon the souls that are drifting within them. Seeing the quest prompt, Gohan breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Ban would not be helping him complete this quest, would he? Cough. Although I would like to help you complete the 4th Hidden Instance dungeon quest, this is a quest that you, Gohan, have to complete personally. It would be inappropriate for me to do it on your behalf. Lu Ban's reply caused everyone's expressions to relax. Sigh. Why does an NPC have to help you complete all the quests? Isn't this a little too strange? Dare I ask where the 6 different seals are? I'll go and complete the mission right now. Gohan immediately asked Lu Ban. Time waits for no one. There's no hurry. I'll have Artoria take you there later, but I have another story to tell you. It won't be too late for you to leave after listening to it. Lu Ban began to tell the story unhurriedly. This is the background of this dungeon world. 800 years ago, the Heavenly Court was very powerful. They destroyed our city and enslaved our people, so we, the Yuan Ko, joined forces with the humans. Master Lu Ban, I've already understood the background story of this instance dungeon. The 6 Emperor sword-level powerhouses launched a sneak attack on the Heavenly Court. You can omit the story before that. Gohan cut him off unceremoniously. Cough cough. Military Governor, you're truly amazing. You've even figured out most of the background story of this dungeon. Well then, this old man will continue. Lu Ban smiled awkwardly and continued. That day, the 6 Emperor sword-level powerhouses met in the Great Sage, Heaven's equals Water Curtain Cave to discuss ways to destroy the Heavenly Court. In the end, they came up with a very stable plan. The humans and the remaining forces of the Yuan Ko would cause trouble in North America and destroy the Heavenly Court's stronghold there. At the same time, they would use the power and banner of several Emperor sword-level sword-wielders to mislead the Heavenly Court into thinking that we were planning to settle down in North America and fight against the Heavenly Court. In order to maintain their rule, the Heavenly Court would definitely send the desolate-level Yuan Ko to destroy the rebels in North America. This would give us a chance. That was the truth. When our forces uprooted 90% of the Heavenly Court's stronghold in North America and trapped the last of the Heavenly Court's forces in Los Angeles, the Heavenly Court did not just sit back and watch. As expected, the Heavenly Court didn't just sit back and watch. They actually sent 3 desolate-level Yuan bandits and a large number of core forces to North America. This round trip will take at least 2 days. After our 6 Emperor sword-level powerhouses confirmed that the Heavenly Court's army would be there for a day, they came out of hiding and attacked the core area of the Heavenly Court. The entire process was as easy as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. The Heavenly Court did not have any decent resistance before the 6 Emperor sword-level powerhouses killed their way to the soaring sky palace of the Golden Arches and surrounded the remaining 2 desolate-level Yuan Ko of the Heavenly Court. Although the desolate-level Yuan Ko is strong, it's definitely not a match for 6 powerhouses of the same level. We were confident that we could kill the 2 top powerhouses of the Heavenly Court within half a day. That way, we would have double the number of top powerhouses of the Heavenly Court. The Heavenly Court would not dare to kill us unscrupulously, and we could also develop and strengthen ourselves again. Up until now, our script could be said to be successful. The remaining 2 desolate-level Yuan Ko of the Heavenly Court were indeed no match for our 6 Emperor sword-level sword-bearers. Just as we were about to kill the 2 desolate-level Yuan Ko, another Emperor sword-level sword-bearer suddenly appeared from the depths of the Heavenly Palace. We never expected that after ruling and bewitching the humans for more than 30 years, the humans who were still children back then would completely believe in the Heavenly Court's words. They thought that humans and the Heavenly Court were one and the same. They were not sword-bearers, but sword immortals taught by the Heavenly Court. And among these sword immortals, there was an extremely terrifying Emperor sword-level sword-bearer. He was so deeply brainwashed by the heavenly court that he did not listen to the advice of the other two Emperor sword-level sword-bearers in the team and attacked us directly. Moreover, his abilities were extremely terrifying. He could fight against 3 Emperor sword-level powerhouses alone and block the attacks of 3 Emperor sword-level powerhouses. In this way, the heavenly court would have 5 Emperor sword-level combatants, which is almost the same as our 6. Although they would still be able to gain the upper hand in the end, it would be impossible for them to destroy the other party within a day or two. Faced with such a situation, our 6 Emperor sword-level powerhouses decided to give up on the sneak attack and leave the heavenly court. This was to prevent the 3 Emperor sword-level powerhouses from the heavenly court from returning and surrounding our people. If that happened, the entire situation would be reversed, and we would be the ones facing the threat of death. It's a pity that we were a step too slow. The heavenly court troops who were heading to America came to their senses halfway and started to rush back at full speed. In the end, just as our 6 Emperor sword-level combatants escaped from the heavenly court, they were surrounded near Hengdian. In the end, 11 Emperor sword-level powerhouses engaged in an earth-shattering battle in the entire Zhejiang province. The heavenly court, which had the Jade Emperor and the Emperor sword-level sword-wielder, who could fight against 3 Emperor sword-level powerhouses alone, undoubtedly had a huge advantage. Our 6 Emperor sword-level powerhouses were already at an absolute disadvantage. In the end, the 6 of them decided to fight with their lives on the line. They blew up their physical bodies and covered their souls as they escaped. However, this final fight was both a success and a failure. No one would have thought that the power of the 6 Emperor sword-level powerhouses self-destructing at the same time would be so great. Not only did their souls not escape safely, but they were also torn apart by the impact of the self-destruction. In the end, they landed in 6 different locations and became wandering ghosts that had lost their self-awareness. After our people found these 6 locations, they were unable to gather these scattered souls. Therefore, they set up a suppression technique in those locations to ensure that the souls of these 6 Emperor sword-level powerhouses would not dissipate over time. Instead, they would remain floating in their original locations. After killing all of our high-level powerhouses, the heavenly court could be said to be completely invincible in this world. They launched a crazy purge against us, causing our remaining resistance forces to suffer heavy losses. We could only hide in some extremely secretive places and drag out an ignoble existence. As the saying goes, once the cunning hare is killed, the hound will be cooked. When most of our people were killed, the heavenly court, which was afraid that the sword celestial would come to his senses and return to being a sword wielder, surrounded and killed the executioner that they had trained. It was only then that the sinful executioner finally came to his senses. However, it was too late. He alone was no match for 5 desolate-level Yuan Ko. In the end, he could only do the same as the 6 of us. His physical body self-destructed, and his soul dissipated, drifting in an area. After that, we spent the rest of our days dragging out an ignoble existence. It wasn't until a month ago that we found a notebook left behind by Tongtian Jiendi. Only then did we know that Tongtian and the others had a bad premonition during the meeting. They had left a trace of their soul origin in the peach tree of immortality in the water curtain cave. The power of the peach tree of immortality is very magical. It can protect a human soul for thousands of years. Therefore, all you need to do is to bring the peach tree of immortality to the place where the soul fragments of the 6 Emperor sword-level powerhouses are drifting. Then, you will be able to naturally attract their souls and reunite the souls of these powerhouses. Then, you will have the opportunity to revive them. As long as these 6 Emperor sword-level powerhouses can all be revived, we will have enough power to challenge the heavenly court. In the end, we will completely destroy the heavenly court and return peace to this world. Lu Ban finally finished his long speech. Then, he impatiently took a big gulp of water and muttered, I know that this is all a made-up background story and a requirement for the mission. Why do I sound so confident? It's as if I've experienced it myself. So, Master Luban, you've said so much just to tell us that once we gather the souls of the 6 Emperor Sword-level powerhouses, we can successfully complete this instance dungeon, right? Liu Ling said excitedly. This sounded very easy. With the help of 6 Emperor Sword-level powerhouses, in addition to her and Gohan's power, dealing with the Heavenly Court should not be a problem. No. I've said so much because the system forced me to. Lu Ban rolled his eyes. If it wasn't for the system forcing me to explain the background story to you, I wouldn't have said so much nonsense. Chapter 1307. The first location is here. Artoria said coldly as she pointed at a dilapidated building in front of her. Guhan looked up and saw a plaque with words that he could barely make out. Mausoleum Museum of Emperor Qin. I know this place. This is the famous terracotta army of Emperor Qin's mausoleum before the Great Calamity. I even went here when I passed by Shangxi last year. Liu Ling said excitedly. You came here last year? Why are you so rash? You'll alert the Heavenly Court. Artoria frowned when she heard Liu Ling's words. We want to resurrect the 6 saints, but the Heavenly Court is aware of this, so they didn't destroy the souls of the 6 saints. Instead, they sent their elite forces to guard this place to kill those of us who want to resurrect the souls. That's why they've strictly forbidden us from approaching these 6 locations since hundreds of years ago to avoid arousing the guards' vigilance. How could you come here last year? Artoria, have you forgotten? We came here from another dimension, so naturally, Ling went to the terracotta army of another dimension. It's impossible for her to affect your world. Guhan explained on behalf of Liu Ling. Artoria nodded and looked non-committal. Although I don't know why Lord Luban is willing to trust you and hand over the 3 Sciention materials that we've painstakingly obtained to you, and even let you collect the souls of the 6 saints, since this is Lord Luban's order, I, Artoria, will obey. However, since this is Master Luban's order, I, Artoria, will obey it. However, this operation is very important and dangerous. You must listen to my command. If not, you will not be able to return to your world. Artoria said to Guhan and fleeting time Ling, that's right. Guhan said. Alright. Tell us your plan, we'll listen to you. Guhan didn't want to argue with Artoria, so he nodded and agreed without hesitation. We've already investigated this place. The Heavenly Court guarding this place isn't very powerful. We can easily defeat them, but that's not the main problem. The main problem is how to stop them from sending messages to the Heavenly Court, the Heavenly Court said. We have a total of 6 places to collect the souls of the saints, and the other 5 places are currently under the control of the Heavenly Court. If we let the people here spread the news, I'm afraid they will set up a trap for us in the other 5 places. Even if they don't set up an inescapable net, the people in the 5 places only need to destroy the saint's soul completely, and our chance will be wasted. So we must obtain the saint's soul as soon as possible, and at the same time, make sure that the Heavenly Court's subordinates can't spread the news. Understood. This is a very correct plan. Guhan nodded, but said worriedly, then the crux of the problem is how to stop these immortals from spreading the news. So how did they pass the message? As far as I know, the Heavenly Court's Yuan Code generally has the 1,000-mile sound transmission technique. If they want to send a message, it's just a matter of a thought. I'm afraid we won't be able to stop them so easily. Of course, I've already thought of this, so I've already asked Kel Thuzad to set up a magic circle around the area. A simple 1,000-mile sound transmission technique can't send the message out. Only by activating the most central communication, immortal circle of Emperor Qin's Mausoleum Museum, can we break through Kel Thuzad's blockade, Artoria said. This means that we must first control that communication immortal circle. Guhan thought for a while. This isn't difficult. As long as we open the void gate, get close to the communication immortal circle through the void gate, and then kill all the immortals around the immortal circle. That's right, but the immortal circle is guarded by a great overarching golden immortal. He only needs 10 seconds to activate the immortal circle with all his strength. And we can't destroy the immortal circle. Otherwise, the moment the immortal circle is destroyed, the immortal circle on the other side will be able to sense it, and the heavenly court will know that something has happened here. Artorias said. 10 seconds? Gohan smiled. No problem, it's not a difficult thing. Artoria looked at Gohan, and her eyes flashed with some helplessness and dissatisfaction. Now is not the time to talk big. I believe you can kill a great overarching golden immortal, but a great overarching golden immortal is not so easy to control. Once he grasps the opportunity to activate the immortal circle, we're finished. So we have to come up with a complete set of tactics to ensure that this great overarching golden immortal can't activate the immortal circle. I've done a comprehensive understanding of the great overarching golden immortal guarding here and designed a perfect battle plan. All you need to do is... Artoria spent a full 20 minutes explaining her elaborate battle plan to Gohan. Gohan looked relatively serious, but Liuyan Ling was having a headache listening to her. How did Artoria come up with such a complicated battle plan? Not to mention whether this battle plan was correct or not. Could the three of them really coordinate such a complicated battle plan? Don't worry about her plan. When the time comes, the two of us will use our strongest moves to deal with that great overarching golden immortal. Gohan whispered in Liuyan Ling's ear, while Artoria was seriously explaining her plan and not in the mood to care about other things. A dark-faced, thick-bearded man in armor sat on top of the communication immortal formation in the immortal realm. He looked like a general. There was a silver whip in his right hand, 24 blue pearls floating above his head, and a mighty black tiger crouched behind him. When other people first saw this immortal, they would subconsciously think of him as an extremely mighty general. But who would have thought that this general's official title in the heavenly court was actually the god of wealth? That's right, this great overarching golden immortal was called Zhao Gongming. His original name was Lang, and his courtesy name was Gongming. He was also known as Zhao Xiantan, Marshal Zhao Gong, and was one of the 4 marshals of Taoism. At the same time, he was the general of the Thunder Department and one of the 5 gods of plagues. At the same time, he was also the god of wealth, in charge of the wealth of the world. Humph! That ignorant Jade Emperor actually made me, a dignified great overarching golden immortal, come to this small place to be a guard. It's really abominable, abominable! From this sentence, it could be heard that Zhao Gongming was not willing to guard here. He was even very dissatisfied with the ruler of the heavenly court, the dignified Jade Emperor, Haotian. This dissatisfaction was even directly expressed through his mouth. The reason was very simple. Zhao Gongming had never taken the Jade Emperor seriously. Even though he had become a subject of the Jade Emperor, he still only had his master, sect leader Tong Tian, in his heart. Although Zhao Gongming's mouth was constantly cursing, he did not relax. Not even the slightest movement in the surroundings could escape Zhao Gongming's senses. That was why Zhao Gongming was able to react the moment the void fluctuated. He immediately held all his weapons and magic treasures in his hands. The black tiger also scurried up to Zhao Gongming's crotch and roared at the slowly opening void gate in the sky. I'm just annoyed now. I didn't expect someone to come to me. Seeing the void gate open, Zhao Gongming did not immediately trigger the immortal communication formation. Instead, he raised the 24 oceanic calming pearls in his hand, in a state where they could be triggered at any time. As long as the person in the void gate made a slight move, these 24 oceanic calming pearls could be directly smashed to destroy the person's soul. These oceanic calming pearls were primordial spiritual treasures. There were 24 pearls in a string. They emitted 5 colored rays of light, dazzled the enemy's 5 senses, and were as powerful as the power of the 4 seas. Even if a zenith heaven golden immortal carried 24 oceanic calming pearls on his back, one of his 3 souls and 7 spirits would be smashed to pieces. It was really powerful. Zhao Gongming had used this magic treasure to beat his opponent to the point of fleeing. Zhao Gongming had always believed in one principle when fighting, and that was to strike first and gain the upper hand. As long as the enemy showed his head, he would not waste time talking nonsense and would smash his most powerful magic weapon. Relying on this method, Zhao Gongming could be said to have made an illustrious name in the untainted land back then. Against a guy like him who would start fighting without saying anything, his mouth was completely useless. This made many protagonists who were good at talking feel very uncomfortable. But this time, Zhao Gongming miscalculated. Because before the oceanic calming pearls in Zhao Gongming's hand smashed down, countless sword chi flew out from the void gate, beating Zhao Gongming, who wanted to make the first move, into a sorry state. Zhao Gongming only felt a wave of chaos. When he finally extinguished all the sword chi, 2 women and a man had already appeared in front of him. Artoria! Zhao Gongming was the first to recognize King Arthur. Now, King Arthur was basically a flag of all the resistance and was also one of the few Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals among the resistance. Zhao Gongming had fought with Artoria more than once and even suffered a small loss once or twice. Zhao Gongming could be said to have a deep understanding of how difficult it was to deal with this opponent. Especially this time, Artoria actually brought a man and a woman with her. Zhao Gongming was not stupid. Since these 2 people could appear with Artoria, it meant that the strength of these 2 people made Artoria feel at ease. They should at least have the strength of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals. Thinking of this, Zhao Gongming had the intention to retreat. He did not care about the Jade Emperor, nor did he want to sacrifice his life for the Jade Emperor's grand hegemony. But after all, he was a figure whose true spirit was on the list of deification. If he just ran away without doing anything, the Jade Emperor would certainly not let go of the opportunity to punish him. Therefore, Zhao Gongming decided to immediately escape after activating the Immortal Communication formation. He would not stay for a second longer. This way, he could be considered to have done his part. Chapter 1308. According to the plan, you'll use your sword chi to keep Zhao Gongming's oceanic calming pearl busy. I'll take the opportunity to use victory and contract. Before Artoria could finish her sentence, she froze. This was because Guhan and Liunian Ling didn't act according to her plan at all. Instead, they rushed to Zhao Gongming's side and started a melee fight with him using the sword maidens in their hands. You're crazy. Zhao Gongming's close combat ability is too strong, only. Before Artoria could finish her sentence, she was dumbfounded. Myriad Swords Technique. Liunian Ling roared, and then Liunian Ling's blade shot out tens of thousands of sword chi, all of which pierced Zhao Gongming's body in an instant. Zhao Gongming let out a blood-curdling scream as the armor he wore shattered into pieces, and countless bloody holes appeared on his body. Chaos Sword Technique, Chaos Splitter. Not to be outdone, Guhan fiercely chopped down on Zhao Gongming's head with his chi sword. If Zhao Gongming had not dodged in time and only lost a bunch of his hair, Zhao Gongming's head would have been chopped off. Wow! Where did these 2 lunatics come from? Why are they so powerful? Zhao Gongming let out a strange cry. He'd never imagined that he'd meet opponents who were even more ruthless than him. Without saying a word, they launched a fierce attack on him with their ultimate move. They didn't even bother to greet him. This was too much. What was more frightening was that these 2 humans were both stronger than him. He couldn't even defeat one of them, let alone both of them charging at him together. Zhao Gongming only managed to block for a moment before he felt his magic power drain rapidly. In less than 10 minutes, he'd probably die at the hands of these 2 freaks. That's right, Artoria hadn't made a move yet. If she did, then Zhao Gongming would die for sure. Thinking of this, Zhao Gongming didn't dare activate the communication immortal formation anymore. He directly tore open the void and fled, only thinking of escaping from these two terrifying fellows. Miss Artoria, I'll leave the rest of the minions here to you. Don't let them escape. The two of us will go after this Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. As soon as Gohan finished speaking, he and Liuyan Ling rushed into the void, leaving Artoria standing there in a daze. That's it? Artoria looked at the communication immortal formation that was now under her control. She hadn't expected that the grand, precise, and impeccable battle plan that she had spent so much time and 20 minutes just talking would not be of any use. In the end, the two humans' random attacks had driven Zhao Gongming away. Kel Thuzad. Inform everyone to move out. Leave no one alive. Artoria sighed and freed herself from her disappointment. Then, she began to command her men to clear out the Heavenly Court's troops in Emperor Qin's mausoleum. At the same time, in the void, Zhao Gongming was engaged in an extremely difficult escape. He constantly tried to use the sea calming pearl in his hand to send his opponent flying, but the man's sword seemed to have eyes and easily blocked his sea calming pearl. The remaining woman ignored Zhao Gongming and continued to unleash sword chis at Zhao Gongming as if they were free. How could Zhao Gongming block such an attack? Another fleeting time sword chi sliced off half of the black tiger he was riding on. It looked like it was on the verge of death. Zhao Gongming, who pitted his mount, could only stop helplessly and retract his 24 sea calming pearls. At the same time, he raised his hands high and said with a bitter smile, "Stop fighting. I surrender. I'll be your captive, okay? This black tiger has been with me for tens of thousands of years. I really can't let it die here." Hearing its master's words, the black tiger under him opened its eyes intelligently. It looked at Zhao Gongming with a touched and gentle gaze. For a moment there was an urge to cry. This was the scene that girls couldn't stand the most. Liuyan Ling's attitude softened on the spot. However, Gohan didn't care about this. He coldly pulled out his celestial extinguished sword and said mercilessly, "Continue to run, I won't let you go." "Wait, kid, where did you get that sword in your hand?" However, what Gohan didn't expect was that after seeing the celestial extinguished sword, Zhao Gongming's gaze never left the sword. This wasn't a greedy gaze towards the sword. Instead, it was the gaze of a child who saw his father. "That's not something you need to know," Gohan replied coldly. "No. This is the celestial extinguished sword, right? This is definitely the celestial extinguished sword. It can't be wrong. It's impossible for me to recognize Master's weapon wrongly. This is clearly the celestial extinguished sword of the 4 immortal exterminating swords." The more Zhao Gongming spoke, the more agitated he became. In the next second, something that surprised Gohan happened. Zhao Gongming actually knelt in front of Gohan and said with an extremely agitated and sincere tone, "Friend, if you want my life, just take it. I won't have any complaints. I just beg you to tell me, how did you get this celestial extinguished sword? Have you seen the owner of this celestial extinguished sword? As long as you can solve the doubts in my heart, I'll be satisfied even if I die now." The owner of the celestial extinguished sword. I'm afraid the owner he's talking about is the Tongtian sect leader, that celestial extinguish and immortal exterminating swords mentioned. Gohan's thoughts changed. He gave Liuyan Ling a look to calm down, then turned to Zhao Gongming and said, "If you want me to believe you, hand over your 24 Dinghai pearls and your silver whip to me and put on this restraining device. I'll believe you and tell you about this sword." Handing over his most important weapon and artifact, and putting on restraining device to restrict his power to the level of an ordinary person was something a normal universe-level Yuan Ko wouldn't be willing to do even if he died. However, Zhao Gongming didn't hesitate at all. He threw the 24 Dinghai pearls and his weapon in front of Guhan. He also obediently cut off his connection with the Dinghai pearls, so that Guhan could directly put the pearls into his dimensional pocket. This way, unless Guhan opened his dimensional pocket himself, Zhao Gongming wouldn't be able to find his 24 Dinghai pearls for the rest of his life. After that, he obediently put on the restraining device. Guhan didn't have this thing, but after entering the game, Xian used the system's privilege to give Guhan dozens of such devices and put them in his dimensional pocket. These were the best restraining devices. As long as those Yuan Ko were willing to wear them, even a desolation-level Yuan Ko could be restrained. After Zhao Gongming completed all the restraining devices according to Guhan's request, he was no longer a threat to Guhan. Guhan left the void with Zhao Gongming and found an empty ruin. He moved a table and chairs over and sat down with Liuyan Ling to chat with Zhao Gongming. I got this sword by accident. Guhan made up a story. At that time, I was still young, and I lived the life of being chased by your heavenly court. One day, when I was being chased by you, I accidentally fell off a cliff and came across a cave where I found this sword. Celestial Extinguish Sword found in the cave? How could Celestial Extinguish Sword be hidden in a cave? Zhao Gongming said in disbelief after listening to Guhan's narration. You are already my prisoner. Your life is in my hands at any time. I have no need to lie to you, and I can't be bothered to lie to you, Guhan said disdainfully and casually. This was the most trustworthy attitude. After seeing Guhan's attitude, Zhao Gongming also believed about 70% to 80%. Yes, there was no need for Guhan to lie to him. Later, I walked to the sword and found that it was a stone sword, and there was a stone tablet beside the sword. On the stone tablet, it said, "Those who can pass through my immortal slaying formation and come here are all fated people. They can hold the two swords. If the two swords reveal their true bodies, they will be the direct disciples of sect leader Tong Tian and will revitalize the tribe of Jia." Guhan made up such a cool adventure plot according to the routine of those online novels. Celestial Execution Formation. Isn't the Celestial Execution Formation a killing formation? Won't the mortals who enter it be torn apart by the sword chi immediately? Why does it have the function of selecting disciples? After listening to Guhan's narration, Zhao Gongming thought in puzzlement. Zhao Gongming knew about the Celestial Execution Formation. Naturally, he knew the real function of the Celestial Execution Formation. He really didn't remember that this formation had the function of selecting disciples. That's right. Perhaps Master wanted to choose a mortal who could not be torn apart by the sword chi of the immortal slaying sword formation. Only such a person could become Master's direct disciple. Zhao Gongming's imagination began to fill in the gaps, and he took the initiative to come up with a reasonable explanation for Guhan. No. You said two swords just now. Is there a second sword besides Celestial Extinguish Sword? Zhao Gongming asked excitedly. That's right. Besides Celestial Extinguish Sword, there's also Celestial Execution Sword. Guhan took out the Celestial Execution Sword from his dimensional pocket and placed the two swords in front of Zhao Gongming. Zhao Gongming didn't expect that he could see Celestial Extinguish Sword and Celestial Execution Sword in his lifetime. Now, he no longer had any doubts about Guhan's identity. He hugged Guhan in his arms and said with tears in his eyes, "Little junior brother, I'm your senior brother." Chapter 1309. Senior brother? What makes you say you're my senior brother? You'd better give me a clear explanation, or I'll kill you right now. Upon hearing Zhao Gongming's words, Guhan's expression changed dramatically, and he threatened him directly. Junior brother, you don't know that I'm also Master's direct disciple. We're genuine senior brother and junior brother. Zhao Gongming immediately said excitedly. How do I know you're not lying to me? Master didn't tell me anything other than his name, let alone that he has a senior brother named Zhao Gongming. Why should I believe you? Guhan said with a cold face. Do I still need evidence? Who in the heavenly court doesn't know that I, Zhao Gongming, am Master's disciple? This is something that everyone in the world knows. What evidence do I need? Zhao Gongming said in annoyance. He scratched his head hard and then slapped it hard. Little junior brother, don't tell me you don't know anything about our master's great achievements? What great achievements? Guhan showed a confused expression and continued to fabricate nonsense. To tell you the truth, after I got these 2 swords, I've been practicing hard in that cave. Recently, when I came out of the mountain, I encountered this incident and was invited by Miss Artoria to rebel against the heavenly court. I see. It seems that I need to tell you the story of our tribe of Jie, junior brother. Zhao Gongming coughed and cleared his throat. Then, he spent a total of 4 hours narrating the investiture of the Gods' War. Of course, Zhao Gongming's focus was on how shameless the tribe of enlightenment was, how they bullied the weak and even brought out their master, the primeval Lord of Heaven, to bully the juniors. In the end, the sect leader couldn't stand it anymore and set up the immortal slaying sword formation and the innumerable immortal formation to avenge his disciples. In the end, the primeval Lord of Heaven and Taishang Laojun colluded with foreign enemies and attracted 2 sages from the west. They worked together to break the immortal slaying sword formation of the sect leader of Tongtian, so that in the end, the immortal slaying sword formation was taken by those shameless villains of the tribe of enlightenment. How abominable! Zhao Gongming's narration was obviously very subjective. He put sect leader Tongtian in the position of justice, while the 4 enemies of sect leader Tongtian were the villains. Naturally, Guhan successfully blocked out the subjective color in this narration and broke down the few pieces of information that were important to him. Firstly, both the Chimpin sword and the 4 immortal slaying swords were indeed the treasured swords of sect leader Tongtian, and sect leader Tongtian was indeed their old master. Number 2. Since the beginning of time, the 7 most powerful people in the world were known as sages. These sages were so powerful that they could split the heavens and earth apart, refine the earth, water, wind, and fire, and return the entire world to primal chaos. They could even create a small world with a single thought. This was an unbelievable realm. Any saint-level existence could beat up the Jade Emperor and other top desolate-level existences like Yuan Ko. From this point, it was very likely that the 7 sages had already surpassed the limits of Emperor Sword and Primal Desolate level. They had reached a level that only existed in the imagination of humans. Existences like these could probably crush the entire Yanjing city to death with one hand. Number 3. Among all the 7 sages, sect leader Tongtian was ranked second. Apart from sect leader Tongtian's master, sect leader Tongtian was the most powerful. He could fight 4 sages at the same time. Number 4. The fairy slaying sword formation was the most powerful treasure among all the innate cardinal treasures. With the fairy slaying sword formation, one could fight 4 sages at the same time. Therefore, sect leader Tongtian's power was not unrelated to the fairy slaying sword formation. Let me think about it. After Zhao Gongming finished speaking, Gu Han pressed her head while telling the others around her to keep quiet. She continued to speak to herself. After listening to Zhao Gongming's narration and combining it with the truth that he had learned from celestial extermination and celestial slaying swords, Guhan felt like he had grasped the truth of this world. At the moment, Guhan had already found out the truth from celestial extermination and celestial extermination swords. The mastermind behind the entire world was sect leader Tongtian. The Great Destruction was also very likely the result of the battle between the celestial extermination swords and sect leader Tongtian. If these saint-level existences could really achieve one world with one thought, then the origin of the 2-dimensional worlds might have been created by the sages. However, following the battle between the celestial extermination swords and sect leader Tongtian, the barrier between the normal world and the two-dimensional world was broken. As a result, the entire world was in chaos. As for why the celestial extermination swords fought with sect leader Tongtian, even a pig could easily guess. It was because sect leader Tongtian, who had lost to the four sages, felt extremely indignant. At the same time, he deeply hated this world. Therefore, he wanted to refine the earth, water, wind, and fire of the entire world so that the world could return to chaos and reopen the entire world. However, the primeval Lord of Heaven and the other sages did not want this world to be destroyed. Therefore, they took out the celestial extermination swords and fought with sect leader Tongtian. In the end, they successfully defeated sect leader Tongtian and sealed him. Meanwhile, the celestial extermination swords were destroyed in this earth-shattering battle. As for the other sages, they were either seriously injured in the battle or simply died in the battle. Therefore, after the battle ended, no one cared about the damaged celestial extermination swords and let them fall into the human world. They did not repair the world that was destroyed in the dimension wall. As a result, humans were left to live in the abyss of suffering. Anyway, the sages did not care about the lives of humans. It was enough as long as the world was still intact. After deducing this information, the truth of the entire world seemed to be clear at a glance. Gohan could take the research report and announce this truth to the humans in the world. This was definitely a discovery that shocked the entire human world. For thousands of years, humans had been painstakingly searching for the cause of the Great Apocalypse, but they could not find a correct answer. Now, with Gohan's seemingly flawless explanation, the problem that had perplexed humanity for 1,000 years was finally solved. Gohan could also receive the Nobel Prize in Literature, the Nobel Prize in History, the Nobel Prize in Truth. In any case, all the awards should be given to Gohan. However, very soon, Gohan realized that this explanation could not fully explain the truth of the matter. First of all, if the Great Apocalypse was really caused by the battle between the Grand Master of Heaven, the Celestial Extermination Swords, and the other sages, wouldn't the Grand Master of Heaven's strength be a little too terrifying? During the Shang and Zhou dynasties thousands of years ago, the Grand Master of Heaven, who possessed the Celestial Extermination Swords, was still no match for the four sages. But now, the four sages and the Celestial Extermination Swords couldn't even defeat him. If the Grand Master of Heaven really had a lifespan of tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of years, wouldn't his growth speed be a little too fast in just a few thousand years? Secondly, according to Zhao Gongming, the Grand Master of Heaven and the other sages were born and bred in this world. They existed in this world, and were not Yuan Ko that came from other worlds and dimensions. Here came the problem. The Grand Master of Heaven and the other sages didn't appear after the Great Apocalypse, so they didn't know their background. However, Guanyin Bodhisattva, the Jade Emperor, Sun Wukong, Yang Jian, Neza, and other immortals who were active in history all had the identity of Yuan Ko and came to this world through dimensional rift. After they died, they were all sucked back into the dimensional vortex. This became extremely unreasonable. These immortals were not born and bred on Earth at all. They also came from the 2D world. Since they were born because of human imagination, the primeval Lord of Heaven and the other sages were also born because of human imagination. This created a fatal contradiction. Finally, and also the most crucial point, there was the Sword Lady. Gohan's guess might be able to explain most of the doubts, but it couldn't explain the Sword Lady at all. Why were the Sword Ladies born? Why were they in such a state with the Sword Bearers? Why did they naturally stand on the opposite side of Yuan Ko and fight to protect human beings? And what exactly was this sword essence? As for the Sword Lady's doubts, Gohan's guess could be said to be unable to explain any of them. As the most crucial point after the Great Apocalypse, If the Sword Lady's existence couldn't be explained, then the entire guess itself would be a castle in the air and wouldn't be able to withstand logical doubt. Oh, that's right, there was one more thing. Why did the leveler, Flowing Maple, suddenly appear in this world? Why did he say that he was a leveler like him? Could it be that the 6 sages in their world had also gone crazy and wanted to refine the entire world? There was also the Grandmaster of Heaven's Grandmaster. Although he had mentioned this person a few times, every time he mentioned this person, Zhao Gongming's face would be filled with fear and respect. He didn't even dare to say the Grandmaster's real name and could only respectfully address him as Grandmaster. In any case, in the end, Gohan felt that his guess was not very reliable. Perhaps he had figured out part of the truth, but there was still another part of the truth that was still deeply concealed and unknown to others. Little junior brother, you don't have to doubt my words. Any deity or human would know these things clearly. I'm definitely not lying to you. Zhao Gongming said very sincerely. I believe you, senior brother. Gohan also gave Zhao Gongming an extremely sincere expression. That's good. Zhao Gongming laughed heartily. That's right, junior brother. Since you just came out from the cave, you definitely don't have your own Taoist name, right? Why don't you let me give you one? Taoist name? Gohan thought for a moment and felt that this Taoist name might be similar to a title, so he replied with a smile. There's no need for that. Master has already given me a Taoist name on the stone tablet. Oh, what is it? Zhao Gongming was instantly interested and asked curiously. Hongjun, Gohan said. Plop. Zhao Gongming fell to the ground. Chapter 13:10. Junior brother, is your Taoist name really Hongjun? Junior brother, is that really the Taoist name Master gave you? After Gohan revealed his Taoist name, Zhao Gongming kept asking him this question. It was as if he did not believe that the Prime of Tongtian would give Gohan this Taoist name. However, Zhao Gongming was right to be worried. The Taoist name was not given to Gohan by the Prime of Tongtian. It came from Rina Takasaka. Of course. What's wrong with this Taoist name? Gohan glanced at Liunian Ling. Liunian Ling shrugged her shoulders, indicating that she did not know the story behind this Taoist name. Master, what exactly are you thinking about? I really can't figure it out. Zhao Gongming looked at the sky blankly and mumbled to himself. Senior brother, what's wrong with this Taoist name? Senior brother, please tell me the truth. Gohan asked again. Sigh. I can't say it. I can't say it. Zhao Gongming shook his head helplessly. We don't have the right to mention this name. Otherwise, we will definitely incur the wrath of the heavens. However, since Master gave you this Taoist name, he must have his reasons. Don't ask too many questions. By the way, unless our senior and junior brothers ask, you must not tell them your Taoist name. Otherwise, you will encounter great trouble. Fine. Since senior brother doesn't want to say it, I won't ask anymore. Gohan waved his hand. However, please forgive me, senior brother. In order to keep our operation a secret, I can't release you for the time being. Senior brother, please stay here for a while. After we destroy the Heavenly Court, we will return you your freedom. You want to destroy the Heavenly Court? Are you kidding me? Zhao Dongming looked like he had just heard a very unfunny joke. His face was full of disbelief. Junior apprentice brother, sigh. Junior apprentice brother, I admit that I can't beat you, but that doesn't mean that the quasi-sages in the Heavenly Court can't beat you. Your strength is still not enough in front of them. However, it won't be too late to talk about overthrowing the Heavenly Court after you continue to practice the immortal method taught by your master and become a sage-to-be. We can't wait that long. Gohan shook his head, and this time, I'm not dealing with the Heavenly Court alone. This time, we have found a way to resurrect the 6 sages from 800 years ago. I believe that as long as the 6 sages can be resurrected, we can defeat the Heavenly Court. It's not that simple. Zhao Gongming shook his head with a wry smile. That was 800 years ago. During these 800 years, the celestial court controlled the fate of this world. Those 6 sage-to-be couldn't. Wait, it's not completely impossible. Junior brother, do you really have the confidence to resurrect those 6 sage-to-be? That's right. I have the confidence to do so. Gu Han nodded straightforwardly. Then it's easy. Zhao Gongming became excited. Actually, you're not the only one who wants to rebel against the heavenly court. Many of the brothers of the tribe of Severity in the heavenly court have been dissatisfied with those 5 bastards for a long time. If you can really resurrect those 6 sage-to-be, we can help you secretly. Can I really? Are the brothers of the heavenly court really willing to help me? Guhan also asked excitedly. Of course. We're all restrained in the heavenly court by the list of deification. As long as you can destroy the list of deification after destroying the heavenly court and release our true spirits, we'll be truly free and free. The more Zhao Gongming spoke, the more excited he became. Then, he began to struggle to get rid of the restraints on his body. Junior brother, there's no time to lose. You have to trust me and release me. Then, I can contact those brothers for you. System, branch options received. Do you choose to trust Zhao Gongming's words and release Zhao Gongming to recruit troops in the heavenly court for you? Please note that Yuan Ko and Zhao Gongming may be telling the truth or lying. Please make a decision according to the player's own judgment. This was a very interesting thing. Now, the system had placed the decision in front of Guhan. At this time, Zhao Gongming was very likely to be deceiving Guhan. He wanted to help Guhan win his freedom through his lies. Perhaps, he would immediately report to the heavenly court when he returned to the heavenly court, causing Guhan's plan to fall short of success. Of course, what Zhao Gongming said was also very likely to be true. In that case, Guhan would undoubtedly get a great help in the heavenly court. According to Zhao Gongming, there were at least 20 Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals who were Guhan's brothers. If these Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals betrayed him at the same time, Guhan's side would have the combat power of 2 Emperor Swords. At this time, the decision was in Guhan's hands. Guhan's choice was very likely to determine the success or failure of the entire instance dungeon. Guhan. At the same time, Liunian Ling also received the same system notification as Guhan. She called out to Guhan worriedly, "You must make a decision carefully." "I know." Guhan nodded. Under Zhao Gongming's expectant gaze, a silver-white sword gleam flashed and Zhao Gongming's head was separated from his neck. At the same time, countless sword chi crushed Zhao Gongming's head. At the same time, a small golden person flew out of Zhao Gongming's head. This was the primordial spirit of an immortal and also the last thing an immortal could rely on. "Junior brother, what are you doing? You killed your senior brother." Zhao Gongming questioned Guhan in fear and anger. "I'm sorry, senior brother." Guhan shook his head coldly. "This concerns the lives of tens of thousands of survivors behind me. Even if you're really my senior brother, I can't guarantee that you won't betray Master after spending so many years in the heavenly court. So I'm sorry, my senior brother. I can only send you on your way." "Good junior brother. Good junior brother. You're indeed meticulous and ruthless. No wonder Master chose you to be his disciple. Perhaps you can really revive our Jie school. All right, I'll use my life to fulfill your wish. I'm leaving," Zhao Gongming said emotionally after hearing Guhan's words. Then, his primordial spirit began to slowly disperse like a withering flower. Finally, it completely disappeared into the air. At the same time, a dimensional whirlpool slowly formed in the air and took everything of Zhao Gongming back. Obviously, Zhao Gongming was really dead. "Guhan, I feel that the two of us may have made the wrong choice. Your cheap senior brother seems to really want to help you," Liunian Ling said with a guilty expression. Obviously, Zhao Gongming's last words before his death deeply shocked Liuyan Ling. No. Your decision is very wise. This Zhao Gongming will never help us. He's an extremely cunning fellow. Back then, my unfilial son, Mordred, died because of Zhao Gongming's deceit. At some point, Artoria appeared behind Gohan and Liuyan Ling. It seemed that she had heard the conversation between Zhao Gongming and Gohan. You have a child? However, Gohan's attention was not on the main point of Artoria's words at all. Instead, his attention was on his unfilial son, Mordred. When did Artoria have a child? Gohan had no idea. It was my sister Morgan who stole my genetic factors and used forbidden magic to create an artificial human. Although I'm willing to admit it, she is indeed my child. An unfilial son who thinks about how to kill me all day long. Artoria was very distressed, but she also said with some nostalgia. So that's how it is. Gohan unconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. Killing this guy was an extremely wise decision. He only said something to make you feel guilty before he died. That's the crudest way to say it. You didn't even realize that. You're too stupid. Let me tell you, we can't trust anyone except our own people now. Artoria said as she walked into the distance. Hurry up, the great saint's soul in that stronghold is still waiting for you to collect it with the peach tree of immortality. It seems that I've made the right decision in at least one aspect. Looking at Artoria's back, Gohan said to Liuyan Ling with a smile, at least from now on, Miss Artoria sees us as her own people. Is that so? Liuyan Ling gave Gohan a meaningful look. Why do I feel that you're especially happy after Artoria sees you as one of us? The people led by Artoria had already cleared out all the immortals in Emperor Qin's terracotta army. This allowed Gohan to collect the great saint's souls scattered in Emperor Qin's mausoleum into the peach tree of immortality as quickly as possible. Gohan only needed to hold the peach tree of immortality and walk around the mausoleum once. Some of the faint blue light would automatically be attracted by the true spirit in the peach tree of immortality and absorbed into it. The whole process would take no more than an hour. We need to speed up. The Heavenly Court changes guards every 3 days, which means that they'll be aware of our plan in 3 days at the latest. You've already wasted a lot of time chasing Zhao Gongming. You need to speed up. Alright. I'll listen to you, Gohan said straightforwardly. Then, under Artoria's lead, Gohan and Liuyan Ling spent nearly 2 days clearing out the Heavenly Court's guards at the peak of Mount Tai, the source of the Yellow River, the coast of the East Sea, and the hidden dragon forest. They collected the souls of 5 great saints. The whole process was quite simple. Just like how they dealt with Zhao Gongming, Artoria opened a void gate, and the 3 of them surrounded each other and gave each other a good beating. That was the end of the battle. The smoothness of the process completely exceeded Artoria's expectations. At the same time, she was deeply aware of Gohan's terrifying strength. Not only did he master the power of nomological laws, but he also completely crushed her in swordsmanship. If she fought with Gohan, she might not even have a 10% chance of winning. Where did such a terrifying human come from? Alright. We've gathered all 5 places. Where's the last one? Right here. Artoria pointed to the location of Old Yenjing City on the map. It's around this founding Emperor Memorial Hall. Chapter 13:11. The Great Ancestor Memorial Hall? What is this place? Why does it feel so weird? There's not a single person around. Fleeting time, Ling asked as he felt a chill run down his spine when he arrived at the final boundary. Because there's an existence here that even the immortals of the Heavenly Court are afraid of. Artoria carefully looked at a building in the middle of the square. The very existence of this building was very strange. After more than 1,000 years, no matter how prosperous this square was back then, all the buildings had basically become dilapidated ruins. Only this building in front of her remained the same as it was 1,000 years ago. Apart from a lot of dust that had accumulated on it, there was almost no change. There wasn't even a trace of damage. It was exactly the same as it was 1,000 years ago, completely isolated from the erosion of time. How can this be? Isn't this too strange? Could this building be independent of time itself? Fleeting times, Rin said in disbelief as he caressed the sturdy wall. Because a great man is buried here. Artoria's eyes were filled with fear as she looked at the building and said, when he was alive, all the gods and immortals in the world trembled in fear because of him. There was no place for these gods and Buddhas in the world. Only after he passed away did these hypocrites resurface. So even after he died, the people of the heavenly court didn't dare to go near this area. Even when they walked, they would avoid this area. Even time doesn't dare to erode his power. That's why it's still in its original state after 1,000 years. But thanks to the protection of this great man, the souls of the great sage scattered here are the safest. The people of the heavenly court don't even dare to go near this place. As long as we don't offend him, we can quickly complete our mission. By the way, you'd better stay away from this building. Don't be disrespectful to this great man. Artoria said in a very respectful manner and tone. Scary. Fleeting time, Ling snuck a peek at the building, and felt a deep sense of shock in his heart. It was as if someone was knocking on his heart. This gave Liunian Ling a big fright. This descendant of the Liunian family had lived for so long, but she had never seen such a terrifying building. Just the power of its death was enough to make an immortal sword-wielder tremble in fear. Let's not talk about it. Let's hurry and collect the souls of the great sage here. Gu Han also felt that this place was strange and frightening. Without saying a word, he used the immortality peach tree to collect the souls of the great sages in the area. The entire mission was carried out very quickly. There were no interruptions at all, and the work was unexpectedly completed. System: Hidden Instance Dungeon Quest 4 completed. All the wandering souls have been collected. System: Hidden Instance Dungeon Quest 5 has been generated. Please return to Lu Ban's side immediately and prepare to resurrect the deceased great sage. When the last soul floated into the peach tree of immortality, Guhan and Liunian Ling heard the dungeon's notification at the same time. This made Liunian Ling heave a sigh of relief. She did not expect this mission, which took the longest time, to be completed so easily and happily. Alright. All the collection missions have been completed. Let's go back quickly. Artoria urged them. No. To everyone's surprise, Guhan shook his head and rejected. It's not time to go back yet. Don't we still have the soul of a great sage that we haven't collected? That's impossible. We've collected the souls of 6 great sages. I've calculated it, it can't be wrong. Artoria said in shock. That's right. Guhan, didn't you receive the mission notification? The souls of the 6 great sages have indeed been collected. Liunian Ling also whispered in Guhan's ear. These 6 souls have indeed been collected, but have you forgotten that there's still the soul of the 7th great sage? Guhan said faintly. You're absolutely crazy. You actually want to resurrect the soul of the accomplice of the heavenly court. On the way to the destination, Artoria chattered in Guhan's ear. She still did not understand why Guhan wanted to resurrect the 7th great sage. That guy was obviously the culprit who caused the failure of the 6 great sages 800 years ago. Yes, that's right. The person Guhan was planning to resurrect at this time was the Emperor Sword-level sword-bearer, who had been brainwashed by the heavenly court to become a sword immortal 800 years ago. It was also with the help of this sword-bearer that the heavenly court blocked the attack of the 6 great sages and delayed the return of the rest of the desolation-level powerhouses. In the end, the 6 great sages were forced to self-destruct, causing the remaining human forces and Yuan Ko's forces to live a miserable life of hiding for 800 years. However, this sword-bearer's fate was not good either. In the end, the heavenly court killed him after he had outlived his usefulness, and he also ended up self-destructing. His soul floated somewhere in this world, just like the 6 great sages. The enemy of our enemy is our friend. Since she was betrayed by the heavenly court, her heart must be filled with hatred towards the heavenly court. So if we can resurrect her, she will definitely stand on our side. Gohan answered Artoria. That's not necessarily true. His hands were stained with our blood back then. Maybe the first thing he will do after resurrection will still be to kill us, Artoria said. Believe me, she will stand on our side, Gohan said with certainty. No one knew where his confidence came from. All right. Even if he will stand on our side, the most important problem is that we don't have his true soul. Without his true soul, we can't resurrect him at all. Do you understand? Artoria said angrily. The reason we were able to resurrect the 6 great sages was because they left their true souls in the peach tree of immortality. At the same time, they borrowed the power of the peach tree to preserve their true souls for thousands of years, giving them the opportunity to resurrect. But this heavenly court's lackey is different. Even if he left his true soul behind, it will still be in the hands of the heavenly court. In any case, it won't be in our hands. Without the true spirit in hand, resurrecting him is impossible. You don't have to worry about that. I have her true soul, Gohan replied calmly. At the same time, he touched his ring finger, where he wore an aquamarine ring. Under Artoria's lead, Gohan and the others finally arrived at the peak of Kunlun Mountain in the far west. It's here. If our information is correct, this is where the guy's soul fell. It was said that this was the Queen Mother's palace. Later, the Queen Mother tricked the heavenly court's lackey into coming here. At the same time, she ambushed 4 desolate-level experts to kill him. In the end, he had no choice but to self-destruct. However, after he self-destructed, the Queen Mother's palace was completely destroyed. This place has become a barren land with nothing but ice and snow, Artoria said calmly. Following that, Gohan and the rest spent nearly half a day searching the entire Kunlun Mountain carefully. When they finally regrouped at the peak of Kunlun Mountain, they were shocked to find that there was not a single soul in the entire Kunlun Mountain. It seems like the heavenly court's lackey's soul isn't here. It seemed like this result was what Artoria had hoped for. When Artoria said this, she felt a little relaxed. Either our information is wrong, and the lackey didn't die at the peak of Kunlun Mountain. After all, this is information from 800 years ago. After we received this information, we didn't spend any effort to verify it. It's very normal for there to be mistakes. Another possibility is that the heavenly court has completely destroyed that lackey's soul in order to avoid future troubles. I think the latter possibility is very likely. After all, it's such a powerful enemy. Only by completely destroying it can the heavenly court feel at ease. Moreover, his soul isn't like the souls of the 6 great sages. It's a bait to lure us out. His soul has no value. Destroying it is the right thing to do, Artoria said with certainty. Her analysis was very reasonable. Even Liuyan Ling could not help but nod in agreement. She felt that the truth should be as Artoria said. No. Her soul is here, I'm sure. To Artoria and Liuyan Ling's surprise, Gohan actually told them this with a very certain expression. Why are you so sure? Artoria asked with a frown. Because of my intuition, Gohan said faintly. What a ridiculous feeling. Aren't you people from another dimension? How can you feel the same as the people from our world? Artoria rolled her eyes at Gohan. Forget it, if you want to find it, I won't accompany you. But you two better hurry up. Master Lu Ban seemed to have said that you only had a week. 3 days have passed, and you only have 4 days left. If you can't wipe out the heavenly court in 4 days, you may never be able to go back. What the hell? I actually thought that you guys could really destroy the celestial court in 4 days. What a joke. Artoria muttered to herself, looking like a sulking teenage girl. She was extremely cute. Gohan, is this written in that strategy book? Seeing Artoria leave in a sulk, Liu Ling moved closer to Gohan and asked softly. No. The contents of that walkthrough are basically useless. That's the walkthrough for the 120 mission. Gohan shrugged his shoulders as he spoke. Then why are you so sure? Liu Ling could not understand. I said it. This is my feeling. Gohan thought for a moment and then said, This is a feeling of love. Love your ass. Liu Ling also rolled her eyes and followed Artoria's example. She ran to the side to rest and no longer wanted to talk to Gohan. Chapter 13:12. Where are you? Gohan touched the jade ring on his finger and muttered to himself in a low voice. He looked like a lunatic. The jade ring didn't answer Gohan's question. Instead, it flickered with a green light, which seemed to be guiding Gohan. What are you trying to tell me? Gohan took the jade ring off his finger and placed it on his palm. If the soul in here is really your soul, then tell me where you are, he said in a low voice. After saying this, Gohan slowly put down his hand that was holding the jade ring. Then, a miraculous scene happened. As Gohan put down his hand, the jade ring in his palm didn't fall to the ground. Instead, it quietly floated in the air, as if there was a miraculous force holding it up. It's really you. Gohan revealed an excited expression. The ring slightly swayed in the air and instantly began to fly in a certain direction. Let's go. Gohan immediately followed the jade ring's guidance and chased after it. Gohan. Liu Ling, who had just sat down, noticed Gohan's movement and immediately chased after Gohan. What the hell? This guy is really related to that lackey of the heavenly court. Artoria laughed bitterly, but she couldn't let Gohan leave just like that. She could only chase after Gohan. The three of them flew around Kunlun Mountain. Finally, Gohan stopped halfway up the mountain. The jade ring also stopped and quietly floated in front of Gohan. Looks like it's here. Gohan faintly smiled. The extinguished immortal sword appeared in his hand, and a sharp sword chi slashed down. Kunlun Mountain was filled with snowflakes. The snowflakes that filled the sky seemed to sweep up the entire world, like a snowstorm. However, this snowstorm wasn't caused by nature. Instead, it was caused by the sword energy released by a human. But the miraculous thing was that such a powerful attack should have caused a huge change in the mountain, which would eventually lead to a disaster like an avalanche. But in fact, other than the area halfway up the mountain, the other areas were unusually quiet and peaceful. There were no changes at all. This also highlighted Gohan's terrifying control over his power. As the sky full of snowflakes fell again, a deep black hole appeared in front of everyone. No one knew how deep this black hole was. However, the three people standing at the entrance couldn't see anything inside. All of this represented the unknown. I think it's better not to go down, Artoria said nervously. She could feel a powerful force coming from the depths of this cave. This powerful force was unbearable even for Artoria. It was a force that could destroy heaven and earth. Me too. Before Liu Ling could say anything, Gohan had already rushed down. Liu Ling could only roll her eyes and still rushed down behind Gohan. Artoria had no other choice. What else could she say? She rushed down too. The three of them didn't know how long they flew in this cave. They only knew that the originally extremely cold air began to become normal, and then the temperature began to rise gradually. Soon, it exceeded the limit of 50 degrees that humans could survive, and reached a super high temperature of more than 500 degrees. As a normal human, Liu Ling was the first to be unable to withstand such a temperature. She had to open her personal shield to isolate the terrible temperature. As for Artoria, there wasn't much change. As a universe rank Yuan Ko, such a temperature was not a small test for Artoria. What Artoria found strange was why Gohan was like her. He didn't support his personal shield like his companions. The temperature was still rising. When everyone could see the flowing magma, the temperature had risen to about 3,000 degrees. Liu Ling, who was in her personal shield, began to sweat continuously. Even the personal shield could not effectively isolate this problem. Artoria's forehead was also sweating. In fact, Artoria could use the Wind King boundary to isolate the temperature, but at this time, Gohan still had no intention of using his personal shield. Therefore, because she was still breathing, Artoria was unwilling to use her Wind King boundary. Fortunately, at this time, this cave had reached a magma river. Instead of continuing to go down, they had to go along this magma river. But because the magma river was right beside them, the temperature rose further to 4,000 degrees. At this time, Artoria could no longer persist and could only support her Wind King boundary. But to Artoria's dismay, Gohan still had no intention of using his personal shield. On the other hand, Fleeting Time Ling's condition had worsened. The temperature had risen to around 500 degrees Celsius, and her clothes were soaking wet. Her clothes were sticking to her body, and her skin could be seen through. Ling, why don't you go up first? Gohan noticed Liu Ling's situation and took the initiative to persuade her. You know my personality. What's the point of saying something like that? Liu Ling glared at Gohan. I'm just saying. Gohan smiled. His celestial extinguished sword sent out a dozen or so sword auras that firmly surrounded Liu Ling. Liu Ling instantly felt the temperature around her drop several times, returning to a normal level that she could accept. Who needs your help? Liu Ling was even more displeased. But Liu Ling had to admit that even Liu Ling could not use sword auras to isolate the temperature. Liu Ling's swordsmanship was still a little lacking, which made Liu Ling extremely displeased. But when she remembered that it was Gohan who helped her, she felt a little warmth. We're here. Right here. Gohan abruptly stopped in his tracks. Only then did everyone discover that they had arrived in a vast expanse of whiteness. But what was incomprehensible was that there was clearly a river of lava behind them that had a temperature of thousands of degrees. How could there be a terrifying world of snowflakes in front of them? On one side was lava, and on the other was a plain of ice. These two extremely opposite environments actually appeared in the same underground world at the same time. The closest location of these two extreme environments was less than 10 centimeters apart. The shore of the lava river was facing the vast expanse of white snowflakes. This was simply beyond the imagination of ordinary people. All right, I don't need your sword auras anymore. Although she did not understand why there was a plain of ice here, Liu Ling directly escaped from Gohan's sword auras and rushed into the plain of ice. Oh my God! In the next second, Liu Ling jumped back. The temperature of the plain of ice had probably exceeded absolute zero. The moment Liu Ling stepped into the plain of ice, she felt as if her blood was about to freeze. This scared Liu Ling so much that she jumped back. What had Liu Ling not seen before? But this was the first time she had encountered such an extremely cold environment. The unbearably hot environment became so warm at this moment, as if it was a mother's embrace. Let's go. With a wave of Gohan's hand, thousands of sword auras shot out to form a gigantic barrier that surrounded Artoria, Fleeting Time Lin, and Fleeting Time Lin. Who needs you to care? I can go in myself. Artoria muttered as she tried to rush out of Gohan's sword aura barrier. Don't be stubborn. Gohan shouted at Artoria, and the originally aggressive Artoria immediately softened. Artoria did not know why she softened, but she obediently stopped and followed Gohan's steps into the world of ice. What absolute zero! What a joke! Gohan said with concern. This place is at least 3 times above absolute zero. If Ling did not escape quickly just now, she would have been frozen into an ice sculpture. Even if your Wind King barrier is stronger than our personal shield in terms of temperature isolation, the result would be the same in this temperature. Thank you. Artoria was stunned for a moment, then nodded to express her gratitude. There's someone there, Liu Ling suddenly said with great surprise. Following Liu Ling's finger, they saw a lonely figure standing at the end of their sight, as if silently waiting for something. Let's go. Gu Han and the other two immediately walked forward, but when they reached the side of the figure, they were shocked to find that it was not a real person, but an ice sculpture, a sculpture of a man that had been carved to the point of being alive. There's more than this one. There are many more ice sculptures inside, Liu Ling said with even more surprise. At a glance, there were more and more densely packed ice sculptures lined up at the edge. These ice sculptures wore different clothes and made different movements, looking like a real person at work. But there was one thing that made Liu Ling and Artoria more and more flustered. Because these ice sculptures all had the same appearance, all of them were a handsome young man, and this young man looked more and more like Gohan. Gohan, is this person you? Liu Ling finally could not hold back the doubts in her heart and took the initiative to ask Gohan. It should be me. Gohan nodded. With the appearance of these ice sculptures, Gohan's guess became more and more certain. Yes, the human swordsman who died here must be her. Although she wanted to ask Gohan for an explanation, Liu Ling still suppressed the doubts in her heart and continued to move forward with Gohan. Finally, they saw a small and exquisite igloo made entirely of ice. Welcome back, husband. I Ching, who looked like a wife, stood at the door with a smile on her face and greeted Gohan gently. She had waited here for 800 years. Chapter 13:13. I knew it would be you. Gohan smiled at I Ching, who was standing at the door, and then said to Liu Ling and the others behind him, Don't stand outside. Come in, it's very cold outside. Liu Ling and Artoria looked at each other, not knowing what was going on. In the end, they could only follow behind Gohan and walk into the igloo. The outside world was so cold that it could freeze people into ice sculptures in an instant, but the world inside the igloo was unusually warm, like a brilliant spring, which was amazing. But there were no furnishings in this igloo. Except for an ice table and 4 ice stools, there was no other furniture. Husband, I don't have any tea or food here, so I can't entertain you. Please forgive me, husband, I Ching said with some shame. I do. Gohan smiled and took out a whole set of tea sets from his dimensional pocket. He slowly brewed a pot of tea and distributed it to I Ching and the others. I'm sorry, husband. I'm afraid Ching won't be able to taste husband's gift. Looking at the steaming cup of tea in front of her, I Ching's face was full of pity. Liu Ling and Artoria looked at the steaming tea and could not drink it at all. They took a sip and stared at Gohan and I Ching, as if flowers could be seen on their faces. Let me introduce you. Gohan did not intend to keep them in suspense. He pointed to I Ching and said, This is Zhetianjiandi I Ching. Although I'm not sure about my relationship with her, it seems that in the past, the two of us had an affair. An affair? A few black lines appeared on Liu Ling's forehead. Even if such an introduction was not unheard of in the future, it could be considered unprecedented. Look at what you're saying, husband. How can you introduce them to the younger sisters like this? I Ching gave a gentle smile and said to Liu Ling and Artoria, Sister Ling, Sister Artoria, I'm your sister. You can call me Sister I Ching. Let's serve our husbands well and live in harmony. Bah! Artoria was the first to jump out of her chair and spat on the ground. You must be the lackey of the heavenly court 800 years ago. I remember now, the title given to you by the heavenly court is the great sage shrouding the heavens. You better watch your mouth or I'll. What else can you do? I Ching's expression turned cold. Artoria suddenly found that starting from her thighs, her entire body began to freeze uncontrollably. Her flesh and blood quickly turned into ice. Just when Artoria thought she was done for, the freezing stopped abruptly. The result was that other than her upper body, Her entire lower body had been frozen together with the floor of the igloo, and she could no longer move. Amazing! Seeing this scene, Liu Ling's expression changed drastically, and she swallowed the words she was about to say. Liu Ling knew how strong Artoria was. Although she was not as strong as herself, there was not much difference between them. Since Artoria could be frozen by her opponent in an instant, she most likely would not be able to escape from her opponent's means. Artoria, don't blame me, I just wanted to help you calm down. With a flick of I Ching's finger, Artoria's frozen legs instantly returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. But this time, Artoria did not dare to speak again. She obediently sat back on the chair, not daring to move. I Ching was too scary. What's going on with this dungeon? Why are you here? Did you design this dungeon as well? Gohan drank the tea in one gulp and asked curiously as he looked at I Ching's face. No, husband, this dungeon really has nothing to do with I Ching. Ching was also dragged into this dungeon. I Ching said innocently. Originally, I Ching was waiting for my husband in another place, but Ching did not expect that Yuenko's soul would disrupt the entire game. In the end, Ching was innocently drawn into this dungeon. It just so happens that the great sage shrouding the heavens in this dungeon was designed based on Ching so Ching attached her consciousness to this NPC soul and reassembled this body. I Ching said. Then where were you originally planning to wait for me? Gohan asked curiously. If it weren't for this incident, I wouldn't have wanted to enter the game again. The game no longer has any value or meaning to me. Aren't you waiting for me here for nothing? But haven't I already met you, husband? I Ching smiled. Actually, Ching didn't know where to wait for you, husband. Ching only knew that as long as Ching waited, I would definitely be able to see you one last time. This made Gohan understand. It seemed that I Ching knew that he would enter the game again, but she did not know about the changes in this dungeon. Or rather, she knew that he would definitely be dragged into this matter. Alright, Ching what do you want to tell me this time? Gohan looked into I Ching's bright and spirited eyes and asked in a serious manner. Ching may I ask, is Lady Immortal Slayer in your hands now? I Ching's expression also became serious. Yes. Gohan answered crisply, and at the same time, he placed his Immortal Slaying Sword on the table. Is Lady Immortal Slaying Sword there? She's there too. Gohan also took out the Immortal Slaying Sword. Then, Gohan took the initiative to answer. In addition, I also obtained the Immortal Slaying Sword, but it is not synchronized. Also, I can't find any traces of the Immortal Slaying Sword. Also, I have just ascended to the throne as His Majesty, the Sea Monarch. My strength is similar to that of a top-notch, immortal-level sword wielder. I can probably fight with a flood-level Yuan Ko. At the very least, I should be able to stay alive. This is roughly the time and strength I am in. What else do you want to ask? What else do you want to tell me? Gohan straightforwardly told her everything about his current situation in one breath. If he had really traveled from the future to the past and told everything about himself to I Ching, then he believed that I Ching would definitely make the best decision after knowing the time period he was in. Darling, don't you think that your current strength is already very strong? When I Ching heard about Gohan's formidable strength, a worried expression appeared on her face. Is Darling already planning to go to the Seamless Corridor to save Sister Artoria? Artoria, who had been eavesdropping the entire time, opened her eyes in confusion. What did I Ching mean by this? What did she mean by going to the Seamless Corridor to save her? How could she be trapped in a place like the Seamless Corridor? Wasn't she right here? Unexpectedly, Gohan nodded very directly. That's right, I do have such plans. Ching must have told Darling before Darling becomes an immortal-level sword wielder, you absolutely cannot go and save Sister Artoria. Did Darling forget? I Ching's expression was somewhat reproachful. Don't I already have the strength of a top-notch immortal-level sword wielder? Isn't that enough? Gohan asked with a frown. Not enough. Even if you, husband, have already become an immortal-level sword-bearer, that still isn't enough. Unless you, husband, can truly ascend to the throne and become an emperor, otherwise, the seamless corridor is an absolutely dangerous place. However, Ching'er knows that husband cares far too much about little sister Artoria, and so husband, you definitely won't be able to wait that long, I Ching said helplessly. Alright. I promise you. Until I become an immortal-level sword wielder, I won't go to the seamless corridor. Don't worry now. Alright, Ching'er believes in Darling. I Ching revealed a smile and nodded. Darling, let's go. To where? Gohan asked. To help Darling complete your mission, of course. Darling, didn't you come all the way here in hopes that Ching'er can help Darling leave this dungeon? I Ching said. But you still haven't told me what you came here to tell me. Gohan asked curiously. Didn't Ching'er already say it? I Ching smiled. Helping Darling leave this dungeon is Ching'er's mission this time, isn't it? What's your relationship with that I Ching? Is she really Zhetianjiendi? Isn't Zhetianjiendi a man? Liuyan Ling asked as she bit Gohan's ear on the way back to Xianyang Airport. Because I Ching was still a soul, she couldn't leave the ground for long. Like the other souls, she temporarily hid in Gohan's peach tree of immortality. And so, the group returned to how they were before. Don't tell me that even the Liuyan family doesn't know that there are actually two Zhetianjiendi? Gohan looked at Liuyan Ling with some surprise. He decided not to lie to his beloved woman, so he said decisively, actually, there are two Zhetianjiendi. One is the male Zhejiendi that you know of, and the other is I Ching. I think she gave herself the title of Sihan Jiendi. That's impossible. Zhetianjiendi is a heaven-defying figure second only to our ancestor. Our Liuyan family pays close attention to him. In our database, Zhetianjiendi's information takes up an entire room. There's no way that Zhetianjiendi is a man and a woman can hide from our Liuyan family. But Sihan Jiendi, I've seen this title somewhere before. I think there's such a person in Zhetianjiendi's information, but it doesn't seem to be there. How strange. Wait, Sihan. Liuyan Ling's expression changed, and she suddenly fell back into her chair with a huff. It seemed like Liuyan Ling had already understood the meaning behind Sihan Jiendi's title. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.